for 3 minutes. And then Walker's going to be the time keeper. And I think to make sure everyone can hear appropriately, you'll be standing right over there between Jesse and Kevin by that microphone. And I'm not sure who's first on the list.
Yep. Walker's going to grab the list for you.
Okay. You're up. Whoever that is.
Right here. State your name for public record by the mic, and then you give your 3 minutes, and I'll start the timer as soon as you start.
Let me know when you're ready. Hi. My name is Lawrence Bailey. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to speak. There are a number of fellow Pfluger family descendants. We are here tonight because we would like to propose to you, in addition to the upcoming bond scheduled to be held, we believe, I guess, in the November time period. And for just brevity's sake, I'd like to read these comments if I could, if you'll allow me so. So tonight I'm here because I strongly believe the city of Pflugerville needs to support adding $250,000 to the November bond proposal for monies to support the Heritage House and furthering the commitment of the city for historical preservation. It's important that I put this into proper context and provide some boundaries and background just so that you aren't confused with what I'm going to say. Many Pfluger family descendants have acquired a vast number of artifacts dating back to the 1800s and early 1900s. Numerous of these items are currently maintained in the Heritage House Museum, which was deeded to the city in 1993. The facility was sold to the developer with an agreement that he and the city would ensure that the Gottlieb William Bowles home would become a Pflugerville Heritage Museum. It has been designated as a state historical site by the Texas Historical Commission. This home is presently the only state historical site that maintains memorabilia and exhibits for the public and tourists. The home presently has a very limited area to maintain furniture, utensils, equipment, and other artifacts, and additional space is seriously needed. The Henry Bowles home was later gifted to the city and relocated in 2013 to its present site beside the Heritage House Museum. The Bowles family indicated that they hoped the home would be used in conjunction with the Heritage House to showcase the early history of Pflugerville. It was completely renovated, and the City of Pflugerville Parks and Recreation Department staff have been occupying it. The Henry Bowles home cannot be designated as a state historical site. With the completion of the new administration building, the Parks and Recreation staff will be moving into it around the end of 2025 or early 26. This home, which is located next door to the Heritage House Museum, will then become available. The Pfluger family supports the establishment of the Henry Bowles home as a second museum to house exhibits representing the families, businesses, churches, and schools that contributed to the early Pflugerville community. The land area surrounding these two homes can also provide additional acreage for establishing a legacy plaza slash heritage park for the city of Pflugerville. The city is known for its trails, and a trail presently transverses this land area around both homes. By creating the Legacy Plaza Park, the city will show its resolution to enhance this culture and history of the community. Artifacts will be safely guarded from decay, damage, or loss, and they will remain stable, available, and accessible. And lastly, we are recommending $250,000 be included in the upcoming bond campaign to allow the city to foster a strong sense of community and commitment to maintain a designated historical area for the preservation and protection of early Pflugerville history. The monies would be designated for cleaning and documenting the artifacts, providing computers to maintain digital data, performing restoration and structural repairs, and conducting historical research. The research information will showcase the trips across the Atlantic Ocean where the Pfluger family and other early settlers came from and arrived along the Texas coast and other ports of the United States. It would also identify the trails taken by the early settlers across plains, mountains, and rivers, and include the stories and history around them, eventually ending up as what is now Pflugerville. We believe that this is a way to preserve for the future, and it begins today with your help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I take questions or no questions?
No questions.
Okay. Donk is there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Who's next?
Next we have Stephen. How does Stephen?
Stephen Selke?
Yes. Yeah.
That's right. Can I start?
Yes.
Hey, I'm Stephen Selke. As I just said, I've been to a couple of these now, but I think this is the first time I've actually got to speak for various technical reasons. I don't know that this is necessarily a bond committee issue, but I think that it's probably pretty relevant. I live over on the northeast side, right on El Tocino Cove specifically, in Vine Creek. I don't know if any of you as well, or on the northeast side in general, don't have nearly as many sidewalks as a lot of the rest of the city. I know that uh, I think Pflugerville is the should have written this down.
Trail
Trail
capital.
capital of Texas, and right by I think the Texas legislature, right? It's not just the so. I think you've done a great job with all the other trails throughout the rest of the city, but our neighborhood and our corner of the city and specifically is pretty underconnected. My street specifically has no sidewalks connecting to anything. You can walk along the sidewalk, but to go into even the same neighborhood, you have to go out on the street, which is there's no sidewalk. So it would be great if there was a sidewalk connecting that, as well as I've put together a plan. It's called the Cell Trail, which I've gotten a number of other neighbors. You probably might have seen my email several times about this. I'd really love a chance to discuss in detail, or I don't really know what the next steps are, but I think the ask is pretty modest. It's really about so it's 3 sections to connect up to 3 or 4 neighborhoods. About 1,000 homes that would actually have connectivity to the rest of the city. And there's a path that's already being done by the Blackhawk developer, but the other 2 are still, I believe, up to the city, which is crossing a creek and about 800 feet of sidewalk. So, that's the comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have Kim Bowles.
Good evening. My name is Kent Bowles, and my grandfather built the Heritage House in 1913. And while it was under construction, my dad was born on the property and moved into the house as an early occupant. One of the reasons that I'm here is to endorse what Larry shared too, but history is critically important. And I'm fearful that this town does not have that sense of history. And the Heritage House and the potential of the Bowles House next door and the other plaza type things could be a real driver to the heart and soul of Pflugerville. And I actually live in Bastrop County right now. And the museum they have there is just a gem of an attraction for the city. And I would really wish and hope that that history idea could take root in Pflugerville too. And not just for the people that live here, but for other people that could come as this would become a destination. I'm the administrator for the Pfluger Family Facebook page. And I post pictures of a lot of the history of Pflugerville. And I just jotted down, over a period of 1 week, we averaged over 9,000 people viewing it every single day. And some of the comments that came out was, I didn't know this, how interesting, wow, incredible, I'm loving this history, I'm loving the pictures, can you post more information and background when possible? I never knew, thank you for posting. Is there history on this building? I love history and old photos. Wow, where was Pecan Street Elementary School? I didn't know this, how interesting, how wonderful the old house. I love that house so much, so special. Where did you find this photo? I've never seen this before. Where was the railroad station? What a great looking hotel. And you realize that if we haven't experienced all that, this is a part of the history of this place. And the hopefulness is that we would have a center of history in the community that would help people draw together and have a sense of pride in what it means to be a resident of Pflugerville. And also the growth of Georgetown and Williamson County has a museum there, and this could be a network of Central Texas museums as a destination. So I hope that you'll consider this as a proposal that Larry mentioned, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. More?
Hi, I'm Carol Richardson, and I'm here also talking about the Heritage Park and more specifically the Henry Bowles House. Once the City Hall is finished, the Park and Rec Department will be moved over to their new offices. And this leaves our town with a unique opportunity to use the Henry Bowles House to become an addition to Heritage House to display all the founding family's artifacts, documents, pictures, as well as furniture. Historic homes built by our founding families preserves our town's history for future generations to learn and understand what life was like when this town was just starting. Experiencing a space where our history happened is more meaningful than looking at a digital picture. The Pfluger family has so many descendants, Bowles, Weiss, Fox, the Kemples, and many others, have so many artifacts, and they need a place to be preserved and protected and displayed before they are lost forever. We need more than the Heritage House, and what a better way to use the historic Henry Bowles House. We also need to incorporate all of Pflugerville's heritage. The Black and the Hispanic community need to tell their stories also, and this needs space too. These homes were given to the city, and what a better way to honor our history. But this does take money, and we're hoping that like $250,000. We're not asking for a whole new building. These buildings are built. They already have handicap access, and it's a perfect way to incorporate the history of Pflugerville and showcase it to everyone. And so I just grabbed two things I have from my family. I'm fifth generation Pflugerville. The 1960 phone book from Pflugerville. Oh my God. It may be the only in the world. It's one page. And then 1960 got big. I was in second grade when this came out. 1972, Southwestern Bell started, and then we have 4 pages. So I would love to put things like this. I have many of these in my house that I would donate if that house was being dedicated for the history of Pflugerville. Thank you for your time.
Sweet. Do we have anyone else?
Did Glenn Schmiller?
Good evening. I am Glenn Schiller. I am the current president of Heritage House Partners nonprofit. We host events within Heritage House Museum there in Heritage Park. I have came on as a volunteer in 2017. My family, my mother's maternal and paternal families, both the Preems and the Whales, W-O-E-H-L, were here early on, 1860s, 1870s. And so history is very important to me, all around. And even if it's not my history, it's important. I have people coming into a store that I co-own, and Taylor bringing stuff in all the time that to me I see as important, and somebody should save it. And so even though I don't live within the city, being part of it, growing up here as a child, makes me want to preserve it, especially in this time when we're getting so far away from that. And if there was a possibility of getting a $250,000 bond proposal done in November or something, it could help us a lot because we do have very little space for what we have. I actually have items that family members have donated to the partners that I have at home because we don't have space at the museum or place to work on items to fix and repair. It would be very helpful to us, along with events that are put on. The nonprofit, we ourselves put on a good number of events throughout the year. We just finished our Bones and Stones event, which is prehistory, and we try to go Pflugerville history as far as that aspect too. And it was actually one of our biggest events that we've ever had with the turnout of people that showed up for our second or first true event under that title. We also do our Harvest Fest in October, which we demonstrate how things were done on the farm. And most times the parents have more fun working that corn sheller or other items more than the kids do. In August, we do our Founders Day event, which is for Henry Pfluger Sr., the founding father of Pflugerville, to honor him and his tenacity and courage to go to a new land to better have better opportunities for his family. And so that's what we're hoping for, to just have something that can help us along and increase something that could be really a wonderful thing for the city of Pflugerville. Thank you.
Next we have Bernadine Mott.
I'm Bernadine Mott, and I'm going to just give you a brief history. I don't know how many of you all have actually visited the Heritage House, but go back to 1850, 175 years ago, and that's when they came here. Fast forward to 1904, that's when the MKT Railroad came through, and that was the economic engine that thrived in the village. Fast forward then to 1965, that's Pflugerville. The city of Pflugerville is a very young city, okay? And so as time went on, there were groups of people who wanted to preserve history. They were all volunteers. And the volunteers eventually dedicated the Pfluger Park, the Bowles Park. Pfluger Hall was built by volunteers, okay? The city and nobody else helped do that. The Heritage House today is run by volunteers. All of the events that Glenn referred to. The oldest structure in Pflugerville right now is the William Pfluger House that is owned by a private person that the city went through some visioning that would be developed once upon a time and become an art place, et cetera. It didn't happen. So that building is going to be gone, and you don't have that iconic home. It was built in the 1850s. In my 4 local history books, one of them references all the historical markers in the Pflugerville area, which is about 13. Okay, so there's a lot of places that people can go. I'm going to fast forward to the 1849 park that the city did buy. And when the city did the visioning on that, Phase 3, which is about to come up in the future, had a dedicated area where the Henry Pfluger home stood. It's now dilapidated because nothing has happened. Okay, so that needs to be on the radar of something to do with the master plan. When we did Heritage House, I was a charter member of that and a charter officer. We visited Brenham, Bastrop, Grapevine. I don't know if you've ever been to Grapevine, to the Great Wolf, okay? And we looked at models on what we could do. Again, no money. It was all seed money, okay? And so we are at the point that there's not many volunteers left in this community, and definitely family members. So if there is going to be a preservation of the history, it has to happen somehow by the next group of people, and that's who you represent. So I wish you well. I would say one other thing since I have a few minutes. The public library, Jennifer has helped us, and Daniel. We initiated the digital archives and rare things, so if people had anything pertaining to Pflugerville, a picture or an artifact, they had to identify it, and they were able to, copy all of that. The thing about the Heritage House right now also, I'm hard of hearing, so if it buzzes you, holler. If it would be so sad if there was ever a fire in that house, because the collection of things that have been donated are very precious. They're not expensive, but they tell the story. And we collected so many family history books that don't think it's just Pflugers or Bowleses. There's other families that were here, and they are included there, and it's also very diverse. Thank you. Good luck to you guys as volunteers.
Thank you all.
Next we have
Could I beg the committee for just like 30 seconds
It's your call.
for something I forgot,
That's up to you.
if y'all don't mind?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I just want to say that what she says about Daniel and Jennifer at the library, they are a tremendous help for us, and they do a lot for us. So I would like to acknowledge them. Also, a project that I have been, and the partners have been working on for a number of years is the protection and preservation and an undertold marker for the first free landowning black family in Pflugerville. That along with the Hispanic population, because I have a lot of friends that I went to school that were of the Hispanic population here in Pflugerville. And I've always been focused on wanting to include that because this is not a Pfluger history, this is a Pflugerville history. So just to keep that in mind. I'm sorry, I didn't have my phone with me.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, I think that was everything.
We got one more. We got a thing.
I don't have the max for this.
Hi, I'm Diane Starkey. I'm the secretary of Faux Paws, the nonprofit supporting our animal shelter, and I'm also a 14-year shelter dog walking volunteer. Our city is growing. U.S. Census shows a 40% population increase from 2010 to 2020, and growth has continued to happen. Meanwhile, household pet ownership has risen from 58% to 66% since 1988. Our shelter must be positioned to support the growth. Our current facility is failing. The shelter buildings have been piecemealed together over the years. I submitted an open records request and discovered over 100 maintenance issues in the past year alone. Numerous reports of HVAC failures, flooding due to building issues, flooding due to weather issues, mold, termites, and rats. Staff and volunteers work in these conditions every day. This is not acceptable. The stakes are high. Without additional capacity, the shelter will be forced to euthanize healthy, adoptable animals due to lack of space. If this happens, we will lose volunteers, and I predict we will lose staff too. People stay where they believe in the mission and feel they're making a positive impact. This may also lead to citizens not surrendering pets, but instead releasing them, hoping some person or some rescue organization will step in and help. This will only increase the stray population and make the problem even worse. Our shelter is doing remarkable work despite these challenges. This year, our field officers returned 40% of strays directly to owners on the spot. Of the animals that did enter the shelter, 54% of dogs and 10% of cats were reunited with their families. Shelter staff and volunteers work with the remaining animals to keep them engaged and ready for adoption. Imagine what they can accomplish with the right facility. Our community deserves a shelter that reflects our values. I ask that you allow the citizens of Pflugerville to vote on a bond for a new shelter. Let the people decide. They deserve to know what's at stake if we don't act. Thank you.
Okay, Walker, is that it?
That's it. That's all I got.
Now we're ready to move on. Next item on our agenda is discuss and consider action to approve the minutes of the April 20th, 2026 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
Yes.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Now we're going to the next agenda item, which is discuss and consider action regarding the committee's recommendation of proposed bond projects. And do you want to say anything?
No, you go. Okay, then I'll do it. All right. Well, welcome back. I know it's been a while. Those are some excellent public comments. And thank you all for your patience tonight. Just pre-advance thank you. We may run past 8 o'clock tonight, but tonight's a very important meeting. It's our last time to meet officially together as far as this process. So we are so looking forward to it. These are the things we're going to cover tonight. So first, Emily's going to update us on the transportation projects. This will be a quick update. And for many of you who saw the presentation last time we met, we're not proposing transportation on the 2026 bond. Spoiler alert. We're going to go back. Ryan's going to remind us of our mission and vision, just to kind of recenter us, kind of remind us of that. I'm going to recap the process we've been through
And staff is going to walk you through each of the projects one more time, talk through it all. We'll talk what they're going to say in a minute. Ryan's going to come back and talk public engagement. We did that survey. We had a lot of responses. There's a lot of data to go through, and it's really good for you all to be informed of that. I'm going to propose your committee recommendation. We're going to get a chance to talk about that at that moment, and then we're going to walk through next steps. In the presentation, you're going to see a couple of dots through there. I want to explain what those are. So you see the light blue dot. When and if we proceed to council, your chair, Chris Bailey, those are the slides she will be presenting. If you see a dot with the dark blue circle, that staff will present those at council, and anything in the orange, that's going to be WSB, one of us on this team. So just letting you know that's what that is.
Okay. So I'll echo Angie's comments and thank you all for kind of the shifting of the meetings and appreciate your attendance this evening. Related to transportation projects, if you remember back to our first meeting, we talked about how we kind of get to projects on this list. And at the simultaneously to this process, we're going through a capital improvement program update. We're starting our budget, and then we're also going through the bond program. And so as we were analyzing all of these projects in conjunction with all of those other parts that we take into consideration, we started looking more closely at the transportation list. We talked to y'all about the 685, and then we started looking more directly at Kelly and Melbourne, and found within our existing budget that we were able to fund these projects without going to a bond. And so we have no transportation projects proposed on this bond for you all to consider. That doesn't mean that transportation isn't important. You'll see tonight in the community engagement that transportation is still important. That doesn't mean that there's not funding going towards transportation. And Matt has spent hours upon hours before our Planning and Zoning Commission, our City Council, over the last couple of months, talking about the number of transportation projects that already have funding, how we are funding those, through whether it's through a previous bond program or other funding sources. And so that's not to say because it's not on your list this evening that it's not incredibly important. It's just that as we went through all these various processes that we determined that we didn't need to put this out here. And we've heard, I think, a lot from y'all as well about being mindful about how much we're asking for. And so we really dug hard into budgeting, into CIP, and resulted in removal of all transportation projects. And so that's where we stand on transportation, so that you all tonight can focus on the animal shelter, which you heard from one of our residents about the importance of that, as well as the parks projects, and then the downtown parking issue tonight.
So that means, so did I hear that Kelly and Melbourne are going to be done? Is that what that means?
Kelly and Melbourne have funding for them.
All right.
Perfect. Let's go back to our vision and mission. At the very beginning, we asked a simple but an important question. At the end of the bond process, what do I want to see? What emerged wasn't just the list of projects. It was a shared vision for how this community makes big, long-term decisions together. From that conversation, 3 core vision themes or guiding priorities for the bond committee process came into focus. Fiscal responsibility, an inclusive and transparent process, and a focus on the future of Pflugerville and long-term strategic growth. Throughout the process, we've returned to these priorities that you set. You met this process head-on with integrity and thoughtful deliberation, and in doing so, you helped to shape a bond program that aligns with the vision that we have set. So, today and moving forward, how can you continue to support that vision? First, I would say that you're informed ambassadors. As members of this committee, you are uniquely positioned to explain the projects and share out the value of this process that you've been a part of and your work. You're also trusted community voices. So when questions or concerns arise, we hope that you feel equipped to answer those questions and reinforce the process that we took to get to this point. You helped model what transparent, community-driven decision-making looks like, and that standard will carry forward. The true success of this committee isn't measured only by what moves forward to council, but by this process and the work you've done to shape the bond program.
Excellent. So with that, this is our fourth meeting. In the first two, you all received lots of information. You received a presentation of projects in March. And it does seem like a long, long time ago. You received background of projects, how and why we selected those, how they strategically align with the city plans, why they're needed, why it was so critical, and how we felt the community would feel about that from a staff perspective, and how it had equity and safety benefits. So from our first meeting and the second meeting, we presented to you $184 million. By the third meeting, we had presented to you 117. So we knocked off $60 million of projects. We took into consideration all of what you had said. At this time, Matt is being hired and he's digging into numbers and Tracy's digging into numbers and everyone is saying, okay, wait, like we hear them. We want to lessen the impact. What do we really need to ask for? And that's exactly what Emily had said. So we really refined the budget by the third meeting to 117. We at that time looked at the financial impacts of that 117 million and presented to you guys what that annual impact would be, how much increase in the city taxes and the overall. And then even after that meeting into today, today we're presenting an $87.42 million bond into 2026. And just caveat, that does not include any of the public comments that we heard today. So we've dwindled it down even further, refined those budgets, and really, have been at the drawing board. Okay. So that's the process we've been through. So,
And just real quickly, because we know it's been several months, there's been a lot of information thrown at you. Our team is here tonight to revisit the highlights of each of those projects so that you can think about that before you get to the recommendation this evening.
That's right. So the projects that you're going to be presented tonight.
Quick question.
Yes.
How should we think about the people that just made their request? How does that come into discussion today?
Well, it's the first time we'd heard the requests as well.
Okay.
They are correct in the Bowles house that they referred to is where our Parks Administration currently is officed. And so it will be vacated. We have looked at a variety of options for that. This was the first time that we've seen them come forward with a proposal like that. I personally like to have additional conversations about their concepts for that facility, and certainly would be a conversation we need to have with City Council. It's not on our staff proposed list because we didn't know about it until this evening.
So therefore, we're not considering it at this meeting.
We aren't recommending that because we wouldn't put forward that without additional information. But we will, through the process, when we go to council, certainly let them know that that was the feedback that we heard this evening.
Okay.
Never mind. You just hit the nail on the head. It's council's the proper place to.
Absolutely, and they can certainly add that to that if they like. Yes.
Yeah, my initial thought when they were speaking is whether or not there were avenues that they could share that information, because it felt like they were like, hey, here's a committee, I'm going to throw it out there, and making sure that they're in contact with people who can help answer questions and address that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a great form that's for public comment. That's how we sometimes hear new ideas. And so we do have their contact information, so we're going to try to reach out to them prior to the council meeting when the bond goes forward.
And we do have time. The council meeting isn't scheduled until July 14th. So this is not like a next week thing. We have to rush. Okay. Good deal. Good questions. So the project you're being presented tonight are actually in all of South Pflugerville. So if we use Pflugerville Parkway as the divider line, they're all in South Pflugerville. I know this has been a discussion in the past, and this is updated. There is one project in East Pflugerville, and that's the 1849 Park Phase 3. You heard that mentioned in the public comment. And every other project is going to be in the West Pflugerville area. Okay. All right, and you can see the new total down there, $87.42 million. And again, you've got $61.67 million in parks, animal shelter, $20.6 million, downtown parking, $5,150,000, and that's the total amount. One thing I am going to pass out are the project expenditures. So this is important. can talk. Let me keep one. So this is a handout we created to kind of show if this moves forward to council, and if council approves, and if the voters approve in November, this would be like a resource loaded schedule. So what this means is, say the voters approve all three propositions, and we'll talk about the three propositions. In the November bond, not all the debt is issued at one time. It gets issued over time, really over the next 6 years, as the funds are needed. So it's on a needed basis. And you can see on each of the projects, there's a timeline on what's expected. And the reason why, it ramps over time, it takes some time to get through the planning stage. Remember, you're spending like a third of your budget in the first 2/3 of the time. So you're not spending as much of your budget at first, but when you get in construction, that's really where you're spending the dollars. That's why you see the bigger expenditures in 2029, 2030, 2031. Okay. So it's just a good gut check as well. The city also, when you talk about balancing tax rate, the city holds a certain level of debt over time, which is a good thing. Debt falls off, the city pays it off. And this is just a really good planning tool as well for the city to say, okay, can we handle this? And how does it affect the tax rate? So,
Quick question on that. So on one of the axes, you say it's cumulative bond expenditure. Is this just taking into consideration 2026? This doesn't include debt from any of the other previous?
correct. This is just the 2026 bond proposed amount. That's right.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay. Feel free to take some time to look at that. If you have any questions, happy to answer that. But just something to have, if you need something to put you to sleep tonight. Not for Tracy, though. All right. So the next thing is we're going to go into each project. So each of the staff members are going to take over and present these. They're going to talk about why is the project, or what is the project, why is it needed, and what is the anticipated scope and improvements, and then what is the plan, like if it's not included or not approved. And I'm going to start with Shane. And I apologize, our printer, more technical issues, did not print destination play space. It's not in your packet. So I'm going to give my copy to Shane so he doesn't forget what he's supposed to say.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you've got it right there?
Yeah.
Good,
I'll do
okay.
Good evening, everybody. Shane Mize, Director of Parks and Rec. Good to see y'all again. The first slide, like she said, is not in your packet, but it is on the screens here, is Destination Play Space. So Destination Play Space was funded in the 2020 bond. We have about $5 million. We have gone to council and got approval for a designer, and what that amount did pre-COVID, what that amount does post-COVID are two totally different things, as y'all have learned throughout y'all's time on this process. And so right now we're needing a phase 2 to make it a destination play space. So there is parking lot out there right now. There is some utilities out there right now. There's a restroom out there right now. All of those would be taken advantage of the best we could as we did phase 1, if phase 2 didn't happen. I wouldn't say if phase 2 didn't happen, this would be a destination play space. This would definitely be an ADA park, and we would make sure it was all abilities. But to have a true destination play space with the renovations to the playground, the restroom, and the parking lot, adding some lights, $5 million wouldn't stretch as far as it used to, unfortunately. So as we're working on design, as we're engaging the public, as we're working with council, the concept design will have 2 phases in it. What phase 1 ultimately would be and what phase 2 would be if funded through this bond program. And what we'd like to do, and what we're trying to sync up the design for, is if this goes to the public and if it's voted on, we roll them all out at once. So there isn't a phasing. Ultimately, it'll be one park that'll be grand opened. If this doesn't get to the bond or it doesn't pass the bond, we'll have a plan for what a reduced playground would look like. It probably wouldn't be a destination play space. It'd be an all abilities play space with some improvements to the playground, the restrooms, some connections, etc.
quick question?
Yes, sir.
When people are voting on parks, it's not going to be broken out, correct?
No, it'll be one prop, I believe.
One prop.
So how do
How do you control the budget?
pardon me?
How do you control the budget?
Well, I'm not even sure about that. I'm just saying that how do we say that this is as important as any other project within the park budget? You said you want us to advocate for it. So why do we pick this as opposed to the $250,000 Heritage Park? In other
Sure.
words, everybody thinks that theirs is the most important. Why is it so important that it goes in this bond issue with the other parks?
So we did a master plan, which we engaged the public on. It's we have over 75,000 population here. We did a master plan in 2021 through 2023. Did public engagement, had over 30,000 touch points, which for public engagement for a master plan is huge. It was a pretty accurate representation of what the community needed, and some of those things we needed to improve our playground system, and we have through that. We needed to add connectivity and shade. We have we had about 60% of our playgrounds covered in shade, now 100%. We carried about $5 or $6 million in deferred maintenance through playgrounds. We have about $250,000 in deferred maintenance now. Basically, one playground that I still have at Old Town Park is over 20 years old. Every other playground is under the age of 16. In fact, all of them are under the age of 10 except for one at the lake, and the lake is a part of this process, and we'll see that playground replaced as well. And so we knocked off some of those things. We're working on the rec center. We're working on aquatics. One of the things we didn't and we haven't been able to accomplish is the all abilities play function that this facility will have, and the destination play function that this facility will have. All of our playgrounds are up to code. All of our playgrounds probably provide just a safe enough experience that we aren't able to be sued by anybody that is all abilities, but none of them are intrigued or engaged or in love with the offering that we're probably having at our play spaces. They're all have an adaptable aspect to them, and someone that needed that for one reason or another can engage those things. But this is an all abilities play park. It's a destination park. It's something we're wanting to drive people to, but it's something we're wanting to drive people to that all abilities can play. And the only thing that's similar to that is Round Rock. Round Rock has about 17 acres. Ours is 14 and a half, almost 15 acres. So of the size, we're going to have about the same span. Round Rock's all abilities play park is quite the treat for their community, and a lot of people travel to it. But this is what we've also learned, and what we learned through the master plan is people don't necessarily want to travel for things anymore, right? They're somewhat used to still traveling, living in Pflugerville and traveling to Austin for work. But their entertainment, their quality of life functions, they want that to happen here in the city. That's why you're seeing the downtown and more retail happening, is because you don't have to go into Austin or Cedar Park or Round Rock anymore for your quality of life functions, for your youth sports, for your retail therapy, and your restaurant experience. And so this is following the master plan, creating an ADA space that is a true destination opportunity. It will be a quarter mile from downtown east in the new development there. And we see a lot that our parks like this one specifically, this design, will also help with an economic driver. You'll see people coming into the community and using the restrooms and using the restaurants and coming to this location, playing, staying, dwelling for a while. And we think that would benefit the sales tax as well. So we think it's a really unique park. Understand that it comes with a price tag, and there's a reason that some people would have a concern with it. But we don't have a destination. We have the lake. Last year, the lake had as much annual visits as Possum Kingdom Lake. But a lot of those aren't community folks. Those are from all over Central Texas area. And that's great in that space, but something for a family to come and sit and dwell and have shade and trail connection and an all abilities conceptual plan, a place where they can play and feel safe and engage with everybody else. We don't have that here. And so
And you said that on your previous write-up, that it has better connections to the nearby destinations.
Yeah, to the new investments of downtown East. So along that trail corridor, we're going to be a quarter mile from the new rec center, the new city hall, the new plaza, some of the new restaurants and retail that'll be happening at that location. Ultimately, it'll be about 100 yards or so from hopefully a new pause facility where they'll be able to walk the dogs down, and you'll see families engaging with their volunteers as well. And hopefully, there's pop-up locations for adopt-a spots right there.
So would that be actually accessible by the pathways?
Yeah, absolutely.
From downtown, the new downtown?
Mm-hmm.
And the shops and everything there as well?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
So I appreciate you bringing up, I have to say, one of the things that took me as I was going through this process to kind of sink in is, I know y'all have said master plan a number of times. It's not for lack of you saying the word, but my brain, it hit me at some point. It's almost like you came up with this plan, you had funding to do the first phases, and there was a recent city council meeting where somebody said, here's some projects that have not been realized. The city has not been able to deliver on them. And so, for example, the folks that were here tonight, they're not even in your process because it's the first you heard of it. So as we're going through looking at the ones related to parks, I think having that context of why maybe it was initially set up, why it ended up on the master plan where you're at, I think is helpful for me to kind of place it in the process. You know, because it's like, for me, I've only been here a couple years, so I wasn't here for that plan, and I wasn't here to hear that part of it. But understanding that there was outreach and people had feedback helps me kind of place that a little better.
The great thing about a master plan, and I think we use terminology at times that we take for granted. Over 30,000 touch points were engaged. We worked with multiple different consultants, a landscape architect consultant, a public engagement consultant, and then a consultant that specializes in master planning. And then what we did, which is something no one else has done, we did a think tank with other Parks and Rec professionals. Master plans can get super focused on the community itself, and we wanted to make sure holistically we were thinking of what was going on in the industry as well. So we actually did a national, regional, and state think tank and ran our master plan by those folks. And if you look at the master plan online, you'll see the names and the cities that were engaged in that process as well, just to make sure we didn't have blinders and blind spots. But what a master plan does is I can articulate, hopefully, pretty well what the needs are of the park system. And so can Jeff. If Jeff was here, we have a Greater and Greener conference in Austin, and so he's there covering that, and I'm here doing this. But if Jeff and I were gone, and a new mayor and a new council, that master plan is the voice of the community throughout the process. And so it doesn't matter what changes that happen in the future. What it's saying is, this is what was talked about, this is what the engagement came out, this is what that council voted on, this is what that parks board approved, this is ultimately what that council approved, and these are the next steps, these are the marching orders. And so we always say it's amazing. A Walmart, you could set it to fire. I think there's a community set it to fire, and 30 minutes later it stood up a new Walmart, and there's a whole new staff of people working in it, right? Like they're a machine. I think this master plan is that same way in some capacity. A whole new staff, a whole new leadership group, a whole new mayor and council could come on. The master plan is that residents' voice from the past carrying on that 10-year plan. And so we're working off that plan actively and trying to make sure that we hit on everything that was requested of us from the community at that time. And this is just part of that in the process.
Thank you.
Okay. Do I hit next?
Next.
Do I hit it?
Nope, I do it.
Okay. Awesome. 1849 Park. Now, what you heard from the residents there, the Pfluger family, they are right. The Pfluger family sold that original property that they had settled in the 1840s, 1850s, sold that to the city with funds from a bond. at that time, and the city purchased it, and we knew that there'd be phases to that parcel of land, that 300 acres. And there is the old Pfluger house out there, and we do have plans as we're building out to capture in this phase. This is the next phase, to celebrate the history of the Pfluger family in this phase as we get towards the family cemetery and stuff. So, speaking to what you were saying earlier, that portion of that will be captured, not the 250,000 they requested, but the original family home and how we're going to kind of highlight that family's journey and the impact they had on this community that's set for in this phase 3. So the 330 or so parcel of land that the original Pfluger families owned, and we've been working off in phases. We did phase 1 in 2016, 2018 timeframe, and we opened up some sports pods, soccer and football specifically. And then in phase 2, we did some lights and parking for some of the areas that were value and engineered out in phase 1, and the baseball fields and softball field that you see out there now. Phase 3 includes the other half of the baseball, softball, and the miracle field that we weren't able to do in phase 2, plus some other improvements, including some pickleball courts, dog parks, tennis courts, kind of a prairie nature preserve area. A lot of our trails, we're the trail capital of Texas. We have over 70 miles of trails. A lot of them are concrete, but we don't have any of that state park feel or some of that BMX type feel, that more of that natural walking and biking. And so we anticipate maybe with this area being so close to the creek that we could really highlight that in some capacity as well. There would be a festival community gathering space. At one time it was an amphitheater. I don't think an amphitheater is what's needed now. That was what was talked about in 2013, but we are working through this process, through the conceptual plan, and if this is voted on and approved, we would engage an architect to look at that conceptual plan, work with some public engagement and the community leadership to make sure that that's still what was needed before they started design. And those designs would go to council ultimately for approval, and then we would bid them out and start constructing them. Okay. Next is Reunion Park. Right now it's, I guess it would be site agnostic to the fact that we don't have that land for it. But we have the area that we think that would obviously go, which was in or near the historic colored addition of the community. And part of all the planning process, so we have a master plan in the Parks Department. The city has a comprehensive plan that has a land use plan, and in that land use plan that happened in the public engagement process, it was determined that a park parcel in this area would be ideal for the residents and for the growth of that space. We've also looked at Trust for Public Lands Park Score, and that's an area that's void, or it's what we call play desert, and it's an area that doesn't have a lot of play space in that area. And so, we're bringing you Reunion Park, the concept, to y'all tonight for your approval ultimately, because the residents that used to live in the historic colored addition gathered a lot in some of those open spaces that are now owned by some residents that we could see some future development on. But those were the spots where they gathered. Those were the spots where they celebrated and fellowshipped and had reunions and birthday parties. And we want to provide a space that celebrates that community and shows the history of what they went through and where they are today, and provide a really cool space that maybe we could see our Juneteenth events and MLK events and other citywide events going on there, plus opportunities to work with that church to see over there, St. Mary's, to see some celebrations, and then to see a rentable location for people to do family reunions and birthday parties at in that area. Like I said, right now we don't have the land for it, so ultimately we're going to be talking about some land acquisition to potentially purchase as well. But that community is really strong, and I was lucky enough. When I say lucky, I was forced. But I was lucky enough to go to a city council / ISD meeting the other day, and They had a lot of people from the St. Mary's Church in that community that wanted to see maybe some of that screen space that you see here that's owned by the ISD considered as part of maybe what Reunion Park would be as well. And so there's some opportunities there to see what next steps would be as a working with that agency.
Could y'all, I don't know if it's you or even maybe Emily, because I know that this came up multiple times. Equity Commission had been working on with members of the community. I understand the city was already doing infrastructure work. There was a recent resolution to do some beautification, and there's a plan to do more. But the idea of Reunion Park would allow them, it sounded like having dedicated space right of way. So it felt like this, like when this was first presented, it just seemed like this little spot somewhere. And the more I've been hearing pieces of it, it feels like this is part of a greater desire from residents of the community. So maybe could y'all share a little bit more about that?
Sure. So Shane talked about the kind of land use and infrastructure plan. And so in 2018, 2019, so where kind of ideas start are these kind of master plan ideas. And whether it may not be a specific thing like a destination play, this particular one came out of that effort. And so, but at that time, if you recall, if y'all have ever driven through Russell or Taylor or Caldwell streets, they don't look like streets in any other neighborhood in Pflugerville. And we needed to spend some time working on that infrastructure. So that was step number one. And so we have done that and it's underway and it'll be completed in July of next year. And part of that conversation, the conversations that we had with the community at that time and still today, and many of them you heard if you were at the council meeting or at the equity board, that they want to really see the history of this area celebrated. And so the rights of way throughout here are very narrow. Some of them are half the size we would have today, but you're pushing into a cemetery. And so we had to be creative with the infrastructure. But then in order to put in art or other types of beautification projects, which is the resolution that was passed,
Or
really,
even like historical markers.
all those types of things will take additional property. Now, our thought is, and this came from 7-8 years ago, was this idea of a Reunion Park. And Reunion Park came from the concept that they would host their reunions here annually. And so that's where the name came from, Reunion Park, because that's what they were already doing through the church and the families that lived there for many years and had acquired that property. And so that's where the concept came from. We think the park concept here also gives us a little more breathing room to add those art pieces, whether it's statues or murals that really celebrate the history of this area and the history of Pflugerville.
Thank you.
Didn't, out of the Equity Commission, wasn't there also a discussion about funding?
That's right. So in the resolution, it's a 3-phased approach because, like with any good plan, we've got to gather information on how much right of way do we have left after the infrastructure is done. What are the art pieces and selection of those that come? And so we have a ballpark for each one of those phases. And as we move through each budget, we'll allocate those dollars once we've got that information at hand.
But that piggybacks then here, because is there not alternative funding that's being discussed, not necessarily for the park, but
So some of the alternative funding is related to art, which can be funded through hotel occupancy tax.
okay.
And so that's likely where the majority of the improvements would come from if it were art related. And so that's the funding we've looked at is related to a lot of those components, the level of which would be decided upon whether it's in a park. So kind of timing lines up. If the bond passes, if you all recommend it and council puts it on a bond and it passes, we would know, we could plan better if it's going to go in a park space or if we're going to need to plan for right of way and those kind of things. Those are kind of the unknowns to where we aren't at this moment able to say exactly how much we would allocate to certain areas because we don't know that yet.
Could the hotel motel tax cover all of this?
The property, it covers, no, it can't.
Okay.
It can cover the art component.
So there are restrictions on
There-
where that money, how that money can be
That's
spent.
right. Hotel occupancy tax is very restricted, but art is one of the components we can utilize it for.
So you've tried looking, you
We really
checked the
do try to
couch
look
for
at all
the change.
all the buckets. Tracy spends a lot of time, as our whole team does, looking for grants or other buckets of money before we hit that the bond proposal.
I think on the flip side, you can view the if 2026 bond or any bond program as a catalyst, to be able to use hotel motel funds, et cetera. Like we can always, use the 2026 bond funds, purchase the land, plan for the park, even build the park. And then therefore you can pull from these different funds to even further enhance the park. So it's other things like, if transportation were on the same project or in the program still, you can do, you can fund design and get it to a point where you can apply for a grant. Like the Campo grant.
Federal dollars.
All federal dollars. So use these dollars as your catalyst to even be able to reach into other funds to even make more of an impact.
We're not going to be sued by the Attorney General, are we? Because
Is it DNEY?
huh?
Is it DNEY?
Is the city's hot funds policy, is it on the website?
I believe so. It's on. It's on there. No, we should
Or
put
how
that
do
on.
we access it?
You can do it open records and we can send it to you.
Well,
Open records, and we can send it out.
is the city's hot fund policy different than the state's? I mean, why?
It's our. I think you're referring to our art policy, which refers to that. We follow the hot requirements for
Right,
the
I
state.
would think, yeah.
Yeah.
If you look at the state requirements, it should be the same.
Yeah.
Right?
But each city can decide what they want to do with the funds. The state
Sure.
says you have to get it out to this, and then each city can say this is how you get it, how you actually apply for it.
Okay, so how to get it? Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think other questions on Reunion Park? Okay. Trail improvements. We're working in the photo you can see there is from the mobility master plan. That was an update of the trail master plan and developed park and trail master plan of 2013 and the city's transportation plan combined together to become the mobility master plan. It was approved last year, and we engaged planning and zoning, city council, parks commission, the public. We're at multiple events and programs and did some online stuff as well to try to figure out where we wanted to see mobility in the next 10 years in the city, and these improvements are based off that. Council has seen our recommendations for the next 8 to 10 miles of trails or so on the CIP, and this is just working off that process, just making sure that we're part of the Trail Capital of Texas. I don't know if that gentleman's still here.
He did.
I
was going to ask whether or not his sidewalk request
part
would
of
be part of
what he
this.
said was Black Hawk. That's outside the city limits. But if he'd reach out to us, and I was going to give him my card if he was still here. I'll try to see if y'all gotten an email. I'll try to connect with him. But I could find out where his neighborhood is. I could find out where it is on this plan and if it's part of the mobility master plan or not.
What's unique about the neighborhood that he was speaking to is surrounded by
Which
our
one was he talking about?
Vine Creek, our extraterritorial jurisdiction. So it's surrounded by county. And so that's one of the challenges that they're currently facing right now.
Yeah, we work really hard. We're always chasing trail gaps. So as a community's built, it's built away from our trail system. So we're working on always trying to connect to those. But in a scenario where a lot of it's going through or in a county or our non-city limits, it's tougher for us to put city improvements in non-city limits.
Given that this is a citywide part of this, could you give a high-level overview of maybe 2 or 3 of those upcoming trail projects that this would be funding?
Yeah, so we have a Weiss Lane connector, a section of Gilling Creek Trail, Wilbarger Creek Phase 2. The one's a gap. These next 3 are arms. So the Blackthorn Drive to Gilling Creek's an arm. Wilbarger Phase 2's an arm to Kingston Lacey. We have another gap at Seal Road at the electric easement north. We have a couple arms going to Fairway Trails and the Kelly Lane through the HOA property. We have another gap for Seal Road to the electric easement on the south. North Railroad Avenue from East Pfluger Parkway is a loop connection. I could get you a whole list if that would help as well. It's all part of our mobilities master plan. Riveting stuff, I'm sure to hear, but for those that are interested, we can get it to you. And it's online. It's the mobility master plan is, if you go to Pflugerville Mobility Master Plan, you'll see the approved plan online as well.
Cool.
And it's got this map in it, and
Now, you said that everything was south, including trail improvements?
no, I think the trail improvements would cover all over. Yeah.
You know, that is a good point. I did lie to you. It's not all South Pflugerville. That is the exception. The citywide trail improvements and the land acquisition.
Yep.
I need to revise that. Thank you for asking that. Okay, next.
And next would be land acquisition. And land acquisition is one of those things that we believe is a healthy part of the bond program. And so when I mentioned 1849 Park earlier, for example, they didn't have land acquisition to purchase that. They had lake funds to purchase that in 2013 or 14 or whatever when that bond was. And they had an opportunity, needed something for a sports complex and for the youth of Pflugerville, and had to use lake funds ultimately for that. And then the lake improvements got delayed. The first round of the lake improvements didn't happen in the middle of the 20-teens, happened late 2021, 22, but that came off that next bond program. And then we've got, obviously, we're working on phase 2 right now. And so it's one of those things where when you have land acquisition, what you have is when we come to you and say Reunion Park's $5.5 million, now we're not having to use any of that land for Reunion Park. That's just design. That's just the pavilion ultimately, the restrooms, the parking lot, the lights, etc. And so if you don't have land acquisition to purchase those spots for trail gaps, if you don't have land acquisition to purchase essentially a parcel for your Reunion Park, or if you don't have land acquisition to take advantage of this incredible opportunity when some future lot goes for sale and it would benefit the city in some capacity, then you're using something that was assigned to the design and construction of the park. So we always say, we always recommend that you have land acquisition in, and it's just a healthy way to ensure that your $26 million of phase 3, 1849 isn't all of a sudden $5 million less because you had to go out and purchase something for land acquisition for that or whatever.
How's your trails line up with the ETJ?
So we have about 70 miles in the city limits, and we have under 20 in the ETJ. Our master plan, I think it's 13 or 15 miles in the ETJ. We connect to some of those because the development that was in the ETJ was required by planning and zoning to make sure they were connecting to these. And so you do see some connections. None of it was taxpayer funded. It was developer funded trails. We're not maintaining the trails in the ETJ. The developments or the HOAs that the developments have taken over for develop or maintain those trails. But we do have connections between our 70 miles and another, let's say 15. So it's, if you're in Pflugerville community, there's about 85 miles of trails that have connection points that you're available to.
But we're not asking in our this bond, none of that's going to the ETJ.
No, sir. No, all this would be inside city limits. These would all be improvements and connection points inside city limits.
Just making sure I'm hearing this correctly. So land acquisition as a separate bond item is kind of a hedge to make sure that the trail and park stuff doesn't necessarily end up as a phase 4 down the line.
Right.
It's not contingent on
It's not eating itself to make sure it happens. Right. Absolutely. It's not a separate prop. It's all within the Prop A.
Right.
But yeah, it's a different function of money to make sure that whatever we were working on for a trail improvement or for Reunion Park, for example, that if the streets and the roads and the ISD do some stuff and all of a sudden that area over the Reunion Parks, the value of that park goes from $500,000 for that quarter acre to $1.5 million all of a sudden, and we still decide to purchase that, then Reunion Park is working off a $3.5 million design all of a sudden in a construction because you had to go purchase that land. So we set this money aside. We don't try to use it for other things unless it's land acquisition or the opportunity to ultimately enrich or improve one of these in the future. And if that ever happens, we go back to council and say, hey, we're short here, or we've used everything else and we'd like to use 1.2 or 3 point whatever million in land acquisition to add to this destination play space, or to make right this miracle field, or to add some lights somewhere or something like that.
So this 7 million would be used to buy the Reunion Park land.
Potentially, yeah. That's one of the mechanisms that we want to try to use. Now, if we're able to get it from a developer, or the ISD gives us some land, that's incredible. And then we maybe don't call on this at all, or we call on this to improve. Maybe now Reunion Park, maybe we thought we'd do 5.5, but we really want to do this really cool, epic pavilion, and it's $1 million more. And so we go to council and say, hey, we have $7 million in land acquisition. Are y'all comfortable with using $1 million to add to this? So it does allow you a little bit of flexibility for some of your other projects, but the idea for us is to use it for land acquisition, for trail gaps, those types of things, to try to make sure that we're not eating up what we told you the cost of each of these projects individually would be.
So my question regarding the Reunion Park, this is for the land acquisition. So the $5 million for it is, I guess I don't understand why those funds are being discussed when we don't even have the space allocated for it, and what the timeline is on that money, and is it just so if we get the land, you can act on it sooner, or what's the thought process between the budget now versus when you have a space?
It's absolutely that second one. So what we did was we went out and said, okay, if we were going to do a land in this section, we maybe have 1.5 acres of land in this park. And so what would it cost to put a restroom on 1.5 acres? What would it cost for a pavilion? What would it cost for a restroom? A parking lot for say, maybe some off-street parking if we're burying lines, whatever. And we projected the best we could that number. Now, ultimately, we may get a bigger parcel, or we may find a different part of town that we want to celebrate that community. So it could be a number of things. It is our best guess at this time. But so the interesting thing, the family that came and asked for $250,000, which is a lot of money, but it's something you could also do in a future CIP. But if you did Reunion Park and you went out and you got a design for it and you purchased some land, but then you didn't have any money to construct, you probably couldn't do that in a CIP, not in our park CIP. And so you would want another bond. And so if we're not doing another bond for 5 or 6 years, then we'd have some land and maybe a design, but we'd be 5 or 6 years out from moving forward on the actual Reunion Park. And then once you're bidding it out and doing construction, you're really 7 or 8 years out. And so this is just a mechanism that we're thinking it's going to be about 1 acre, 1.5 acres based off the land that we see is available to us. And this is about what it would cost to do a park of that magnitude. It's about 5.5.
Since one last question on Reunion then. Is that, of all your park ones, the most speculative?
Yeah, I would probably say so. Of the ones we're requesting, yeah, we have an idea. So the Old Town Park Master Plan is about 1.5 acres, and it was $5 to $7 million. It had some elevated walkways, some really cool features. We were burying some power lines, and so we have a decent idea of what a really one-off unique park that celebrates that community and really is a gathering space for everyone to really come enjoy and to appreciate the history of that neighborhood. We have an idea, but yeah, it's more speculative than destination or maybe 1849 Park Phase 3.
In terms of the way you face things.
Yep. Yeah.
Sorry,
Because you've already done the work on the other, started the other ones. Okay.
I think we discussed it at a previous meeting, but I've had a nap since
Yeah.
then. I don't remember. If the Reunion Park was to be proposed and approved and all that, is there a time frame as far as the money to be spent? I don't remember that part. I'm sorry.
It's site agnostic right now, so we would, now that we had some funds, we would definitely probably start working on what next steps would look like if we were going to purchase some land in that property, in that area.
If land acquisition was slowed, there's not is there a time frame that the money set aside for a Reunion Park would have to be utilized? Or how does that?
There is a time frame on it. The bonds wouldn't get called upon until, I guess, we needed them.
We would hold off issuing until we're
clear on what the plan is.
Got it.
I think the ideal time frame would
But it
be
would be built into the tax base.
When it's
Well,
issued.
When it's issued, yeah.
So none of this is built in until the funds are issued.
yeah, we've given projections, but
So when, Shane made me think of a good question. So when would
There be a next bond after this one?
That's more speculative than the other.
I'm just, I mean,
Since
is
we're
that-
talking about speculation.
Well, I mean, are we talking like, is it gonna be like 3 years? Is it gonna be like 7 years? Is it gonna be like 10 years? Like,
Been every 6 or 7 years lately, I believe, hasn't it?
well, they've been that way, but will.
But then
do we
sometimes they're
anticipate-
every couple of years. It really just
Right.
depends on project needs. This year seemed like a good year for combination of reasons, parks projects, animal shelter, to come forward. If there was a need, next year or 5 years, then we would bring that forward. So, we don't have like a schedule that we
Right,
keep
sure.
for bond.
I was just thinking if you could project forward, given what you've taken out of this and what you're trying to do now, if you could see in 3 years, we probably will want to bring another bond forward or not.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. We don't know just yet.
Okay.
Okay. It's all of parks.
And they, y'all didn't hear it, but they said they approved it. So,
Okay.
thank y'all.
Yeah. Too early for that discussion.
Ms. Rhonda.
All right, so to kind of hit up and highlight again what we've covered in the past, we're proposing for the bond, a new animal shelter to replace our existing facility at a different location, which would be at the current Parks and Recreation Center on Emmanuel. To move into that spot, they'll demolish the existing facility and then build a full shelter there and move the entire facility to that location. It'd be designed to better serve our staff, our animals, volunteers, the public. It would vastly improve animal care, allow us to expand programs, provide a more welcoming adoption experience. If you've not been to the shelter, if you come to look at dogs, you can't. You come into the office, tell us what you're looking for, we show you some pictures and say, who do you want to meet? We have to individually bring them out for you to meet. So a shelter that's designed properly and safely is needed, as well as our spatial needs. Our capacity hasn't changed in more than 10 years. Our existing facility is comprised of a lot of old city garages. The property is the old water treatment plant, the old fleet garage. Public Works was our facility in the 80s. They moved, and the PD took over that space and started converting garage space into animal spaces. And our current dog adoption building, we moved into that in 2015 with it supposed to be a temporary 2-year building, and we're in year 11 of that building because we still don't have a shelter yet. And the space of that building, the kennel sizes, it's got 24 kennels. We consistently have more than 24 animals or dogs up for adoption, up to like 48, which means they take up all of that building and most of our intake building that's supposed to hold strays. And the facility is it's deteriorating rapidly. The dog adoption building floods numerous times a year. It's flooded 2 or 3 times just in May. From anytime we get a very heavy rain in a short period of time, water comes into that building.
Like yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
So yesterday, we didn't get water in that building because we didn't get enough rain in a short time. But we took rain into our office bathroom, that flooded, and then our cat intake room over the last year we've had roofers out 4 times to make repairs, and the leaks are still coming out of the same spots. They're dripping into the cat cages and stuff. So that was city garages, and they converted the space to use into office space, originally into a training room that became office space because they tore down the old mobile home that staff was in, and half of the training room became office space, and we're all crammed into that, and there's no space for decent programs. The lobby space is 2 chairs in front of the admin's desk, and it's a very challenging environment to operate in. And staff does a stellar job with what we have. But the fact of the matter is that the facility is deteriorating. It was not designed for what it's being used for, and it's not adequate. And even space-wise for the dog adoption building, the kennels in that building are half the size of the stray intake kennels. And the dogs in stray intake stay in there 3 days, and then they move into smaller space to be in there for months. So all of that needs to be addressed, and it really can't be addressed properly at our current location. So the new facility would provide proper space, proper design, proper surfaces that are impervious to moisture so we don't have disease spread in all of our animal areas. Those were not designed like that, and we have violations on health department stuff regularly because of the infrastructure design. So currently, we have identified our location, selected the site. The city already owns the land. In the first year, if this goes on a bond and passes, that first year would be dedicated probably to design and then construction over the next year, year and a half, before we could move into a new facility. What would happen if this doesn't go into a bond, or if it doesn't pass on a bond? Already we're facing possibilities as our numbers go up that we might have to be forced to euthanize for space or to close our intake. Closing intake means we don't go out and pick up stray animals and they stay on the streets, they stay in your neighborhoods, and they roam until we have space. Or we euthanize adoptable animals, we lose staff, we lose volunteers. Volunteers don't want to come and get attached and work with animals every day and then see that animal die because we've not invested in proper facilities to house the animals in a way that they deserve. So you lose your volunteers, you lose your staff, you lose your reputation if you're euthanizing for space, or you have staff and volunteers that become the brunt of the public's anger for not going out and picking up the strays in the neighborhoods, like one of our neighbors has been experiencing for a couple of years, the outrage there for their shelter intake being closed for so long, and the animals just running the streets and getting hit by cars after many, many reports and bites happening. It becomes a public safety issue. There aren't really other alternatives than to build, except cut services to the public or euthanize.
I'm kind of disappointed that you didn't bring any dogs or cats for us to play with.
This meeting's long enough already.
It's 20.6 million.
20.6 million, that includes design to move in.
Is that enough?
Well, we certainly hope so. I mean, by the consultant that the city hired, looking at estimates on size needs, we feel like that is adequate. Costs continue to go up, so as the economy worsens, I mean, things could change and there's not a guarantee. but hopefully things improve with the economy instead of construction costs continuing to skyrocket. But current estimates as looking forward, we feel like that's adequate.
Three things I heard there that I want to make sure is accurate for when I, harangue all my friends and neighbors about supporting this. The current facility is not meant to be a shelter. It was a 2-year temporary thing that's going into its 12th year of use, and it floods anytime it rains.
Not every time it rains.
Okay, most times, got it.
It floods a lot.
But those first two would.
It floods a lot, and roof leaks a lot, and the mold issues, the termite issues. We've just been through all of it, and we're sitting old public works infrastructure that water lines break, gas lines break, and then they go trying to figure out where are these in this huge maze of old water and infrastructure out there that makes it challenging and difficult and quite expensive for them to do repairs on frequently.
So the current shelter is a result of the city not having a purpose-built space for a shelter. Would that be a good report for me to give to people when they say, well, why is the current shelter on?
Yes, I mean we have our intake building that was built between 2017 and 2019 that we moved into, but that was only space for holding stray dogs, not stray cats, quarantine space, isolation space for sick animals, and it is utilized more for, as I said, our growing population of animals that are up for adoption. Is frequently used for ringworm ward for cats, has to move into dog isolation because our cat room is very tiny and can only handle a couple of litters of sick kittens. And sometimes the small dog turns into cat space too. It all gets shuffled around, animals get shuffled around, and our older animals and our highly stressed animals that are in dog adoption often can't handle the stress of the environment and have to be moved into dog intake, and then they're taking up space for strays. And luckily our stray numbers coming in have not been skyrocketing, but our it's getting more and more challenging where numerous times a year we've peaked out and we're begging for adopters and holding free adoptions to try and not have to euthanize for space.
Would you remind us what the history is of bond issues for this?
So I started in 2013 and I don't know what there was prior to that. I know they were part of the police department when I first started, and I know that years before they'd had discussions of spending $1 million to build a shelter. I don't know, maybe in the 80s or 90s, and I don't think that went to bond, but I'm not certain. And then I'm not sure if it was 2014 or 2015. I want to say late 2014 or late 2015 was the bond election that they had proposed a shelter and a police substation right by the dam of Lake Pflugerville, and there were political action committees that were started to push against that. They didn't want it at that location. It was a pretty close vote, maybe 48 to 52%. The bond election failed, but that was for a $10.7 million building that was going to be the substation and the animal shelter. Yes.
I know you haven't gone through planning yet, but do you have an idea of what size of facility y'all?
So
there's no land acquisition because we already own the land.
Right.
So, but what?
So that price was based on the estimates of needing probably about an 18,600 square foot building.
So the current rec center would be completely demolished?
Right.
Can it be repurposed?
It can't be, I mean, I don't think that they feel like it is very good for repurposing for any use because it's pretty old itself. But it definitely can't be repurposed for for an animal shelter. It's, I mean, you would
Are you
have
asking
to
about
pretty
the
much
recreation
gut it.
center?
and-
She's asking about the recreation center.
Well, that's
Yeah,
what, that's
but
what
the
she's
cost,
It's
talking
going
about.
to be
cost to-
repurposed.
the cost
No.
to see about repurposing it versus building.
Oh,
Okay,
Yes.
so
Correct.
Yeah.
we would not propose that because they'd have to gut and, I mean, what are you gonna do with that, the gym area
anyway.
that, you've gotta tear all of that out? All of the foundation needs to be ripped out, so you can put in proper plumbing for every kennel to have proper drainage running through it, for all of the dog holding areas, whether it's dog adoption or dog stray, dog quarantine, all of those have to have proper drainage. And what we have in our dog adoption building as a temporary solve was sit on top of the existing slab with little PVC pipes running underneath. And those are elevated cages that dogs have trouble getting into and often have to be lifted into if they're older, if they're overweight or arthritic or have health issues. And we have to pick them up and in and out. And a lot of our volunteers are older, and you try and pick up a 75-pound dog and lift it into something like that, it's a rather a chore. But they don't even design kennels that have the proper guillotine doors and indoor and outdoor access for that kind. So the only way you could repurpose it would be as a temporary deal again that we're already doing. If you're going to use it, it would have to be gutted and remove that slab. I don't know how you would leave walls up if you're removing all the slab.
The video that you showed us at one point in time about flooding, is that accessible to the public? Because that would be your
So-
video.
Shock and
Yeah,
awe.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think.
I know that our friends of the Pflugerville Animal Shelter did an open records request and has those videos, and they have their own website. They can do what they want. They have all of that, and other people in the public have asked for stuff like that too. I thought the city may have had it on something in a past survey, maybe a video or two. I'm not sure. But people can always do open records and ask for that from us as well.
I mean, I think, it's a compelling issue. I think people are going to ask some practical questions.
Of course.
They're going to be like, why pick the old rec center? Why wasn't there something else? Could that rec center have been repurposed, maybe not for an animal shelter, but for some other reason? But
I
also
think
the whole,
anything else
like,
would
why
be
can't
land
you
acquisition.
repurpose that building? And so I would just say, like, if this moves forward, back pocket, it would be useful to say, the estimated cost to repurpose it, because I have no doubt the cost to repurpose that probably is probably easily twice what this is. But I think there's the tugging at the heartstrings, but there's also people are going to have those practical
Right.
Not
Well,
to
and
actually
the other
right.
option was to
No.
acquire land.
to repurpose probably not, because infrastructure.
And acquiring land, I mean, the city doesn't have any existing land other than the rec
Ask
center
if they've done that
they said
analysis.
would be adequate for that. So then your cost goes up higher if you're acquiring land. Or use our current location and add more out there, but then you have to dig out the old infrastructure that's there, which is the old water treatment plant underground that goes, I don't know, when the building was being done for dog intake, they removed about a third of the old water treatment plant, one of the old water treatment runways out there. And they didn't have old blueprints and stuff what was underground. They knew that concrete ran underground for 6-8 feet, that they had to bust out and put pier and beams through, but then they found, there's condensate or I can't remember what they were called, some kind of big tanks that were 30 feet in the ground that had to be removed when they discovered in their digging out to be able to build the building there. That was an additional $250,000 years ago when costs were much less, just to be able to do the project, and it went over budget. And The only spot you could build out there would be next to that, where you're going to have to go and dig out all the rest of that, and these old concrete bins that were for public works to put sand and street materials in. All of that would have to be cut out, and then you still have an inefficient operation just because everything's laid out so weirdly out there, because we've got a bunch of these random buildings, and our dog exercise runs are so far. Our staff puts about, our animal care techs every day, they've been participating in this little walk challenge and just doing their normal job. Many of them put 15,000 steps on their little watches every day, just walking back and forth to kennels at such distance, so it's very inefficient. And it's isolated, where people could start heading in, trying to find us, and they call saying, we're lost, we're in some neighborhood. Yes, that's us.
Does Round Rock and Hutto have their own?
They don't. They
don't?
contract, well, they don't contract. They are part of Williamson County Regional Animal Shelter. So there's four, now 5 cities: Georgetown, Round Rock, Hutto, Leander, Cedar Park. All of them plus Williamson County, the 6 entities, all pay according to their share of running that huge shelter that has, they're saving animals, but people are not reclaiming pets because they have to travel so far. They don't go looking to the shelter for their missing pets. So they stay. Do what?
I reclaimed my pet there.
Yes. Well, their reclaim rate is less than half than ours. I mean, our reclaim rate is 54% for dogs, and theirs is 17, something like that. And it's a lot of that is people. There are people that don't have the money to drive way out there and look for their pet in some of these rural areas around, and don't think that they're going to end up there. They don't have their own shelter, and a lot of them don't even realize, oh, that's who they pay their taxes to go out there and get it.
Quick question, are there, I guess this gets to some of the questions coming up. One is, has there been any analysis done of repurposing, which was, in other words, how much it costs if you were just renovating the building versus starting from scratch?
Renovating which building?
The rec center.
Huh. Like I said, you'd have to go in and gut it and tear out all of the foundation and
Well, I understand that, but I'm just asking, has that study been done?
Park Hill consider that.
I do it.
Park Hill. When
Oh,
they were
Park
doing,
Hill.
they considered it.
So
So we had a facility master plan group.
Yeah.
And they evaluated all the facilities in the city and what we would do at different things. I think even Bowles, back to the comments from that community. And they evaluated, sounds like they evaluated the rec center as we were leaving it and what it could be potentially used for or not used for, I guess.
When was the rec center built?
It was 2000, so it's 26 years
old. And
old.
wasn't there y'all did some renovations for it, repurposing it for in like 2014?
Yeah, we've done some repairs to the roof and the air conditioning unit and the flooring over the years just to make sure it's.
So I think the question really is just, did they even look into if there was a cost analysis versus just, oh, we got to absolutely demo it, versus is there any feasibility whatsoever? Because these are the questions that I think the general population are going to ask.
Sure.
A 26-year-old building, really? Tear it down? Why can't you repurpose it? PFISD was able to repurpose a grocery store and turn it into their new admin building. So you can do plumbing without ripping out a foundation. I'm in construction. I've seen it done. Yes, sometimes it does cost more because you ask a plumber to get a shovel out. Oh yeah, their rates go way up. But I think the question is going to be is why didn't y'all even look at repurposing it?
Or look at
it's not going
another
to give you a hard
site,
time. But these are the questions that are going to come.
So from the perspective of how to build a shelter, it has to be impervious to moisture, where everything is metal and concrete, basically. You don't have any kind of wood, you don't have any drywalls, that means all of your existing interior stuff has to come out, which is what they did on these metal garages we're in. They went in and they took these Quonset huts and they built little things in them. And like I said, they put in these kennels that are on top of the ground, and all your plumbing runs underneath on top of the concrete foundation in the building. But that was, again, just a temporary fix. You build like that, and it makes it high. It's high labor, because now instead of cleaning out your drain and turning on this flush valve that goes and does that for you, now you have to walk into every individual kennel and then hand clean out every drain, and then all the pipes, you have to go into all these individual little
Right, but
drains
that's
that
the
run off of
existing
those.
facility, but I'm hearing that nobody's done any kind of like study on could it even be possible? And I'm not saying it can't be, or if it is possible, because man built it, man can fix it, but there's a cost to it. So to repurpose it, it may actually cost more than the bond you're looking at.
Well,
but has the study been done? Or has
Well, and
anybody-
the other question is, you're an engineering firm. How much would you charge to do that analysis?
A lot.
Because
there's risk in it.
Before we get to 20 million, okay?
So the report, they did 3 different options on it, or the consultant, they did, okay, what if we build at our existing shelter? They did, okay, if we do a location for the rec center, or we go out and acquire property, and what are the different costs? As far as what all the city may have considered for the rec center besides shelter, that's not conversations that I was in.
Right. But she would know.
There's been a list of, I mean, from the community's given us a list of all the things that could go there, right? But when we look at it, it's property we own, it's infrastructure and land.
Right.
Adjacent to a park where dogs can be walked and access is much better.
Right,
So,
but all we're really asking is this. We're not even questioning the location at all. The only question that I'm hearing is, can the building be repurposed rather than?
well, I think that's what I was trying to answer. I think the idea, what I remember, and I'm not remembering the whole report, was that it was more expensive to repurpose the building because of the specialization required to build an animal shelter. But I don't recall the numbers, so I don't want to mislead you and say it was going to be this. That's what I recall the conversation being, that it was going to be more expensive, and so to remove it was going to be more cost effective, and it was $20.6
And I
million.
think that's just, because there's a level where we have to trust that y'all have done due diligence to bring things here. But when we're not hearing that piece of the puzzle,
On $20 million.
on $20 million, the community is going to have the same question.
It's going to get brought up.
Yeah.
The consultant, what was the expertise of the consultant?
I mean, I assume they wouldn't hire.
Do you know them, Park Hill? They're
they're
they did
facilities.
facilities experts.
Yeah.
Why not partner with Travis County? They need another shelter too. There's
At least 2, but
build another one north.
Did they answer my question?
The facility.
It's a facility.
Yeah, they're Park Hill. And I'm trying not to speak out of turn because I didn't manage that project, but they're a facilities master planning firm.
Okay.
Yeah. So they evaluate facilities.
So they have
can-
experience in evaluating that kind
Yeah,
of thing. So
I don't, so as far as the rec center itself.
Okay.
And I can only speak to what we're doing on our side of it. It's 26 years old. That isn't a huge concern necessarily. There's obviously buildings that last longer, but you want 1 square foot per population. Like anyone that comes to our rec center right now is sorely disappointed because there's not enough pickleball time. There's not enough volleyball time. There's not enough basketball time because we have a 23,000 square foot facility for 75,000 residents. And so the feasibility study that we did in 2019 to see what we needed to do to reconcile that, to have at least 1 square foot per population, said we should build a new facility. And we should build a facility we can grow into. And so the facility you're seeing that's going vertical right now is a 139 square foot facility that we'll grow into. So as long as we don't reach over 140,000 population anytime soon, we'll be fine. That being said, that facility is going to take all of our time, effort, and attention to run. So we had no plans to run a 140,000 square foot facility plus a 26,000 square foot facility. So when Park Hill was evaluating all the facilities, they were looking at ours current facility as what to do next with it. And I believe the biggest need was the animal shelter. Now, their facility master planning firm, did they do a concrete test to see how much the plumbing would take or whatever? I can't speak to that because our facilities team ran that plan. I don't think there's anyone here tonight.
They're not. But Matt did just pull up to the cost to repurpose or to redo it at the existing facility where the animal shelter is was over 21 million.
That's not the question.
No, I understand.
Okay.
That's the one we could quickly look
Gotcha,
up.
okay.
Just to give you some,
So the point being is if it can be done on that, then before you go to a bond, in other words, can it be done, somebody asked that same question of
that was
recreation.
basically redoing that entire parcel.
Right, it was
And it
tearing
was just
down
more-
It would
into
be
the existing
tearing that one
buildings
down.
and-
You're saying that
Right.
would be a tear down.
Yeah.
I think that's just like if this, it's a whole lot of ifs, but I think if it moves forward, those kind of questions people are going to ask. It's not do we want to take care of pets? Do we want to make sure you have a safe and healthy environment? Like that's the easy yes. It's we're spending $20 million. Have you done all the due diligence to make sure that's the right place and the right amount to spend?
Everybody on this is going to vote for the animal shelter. We may want, we understand that the need is there.
Yeah.
The
Well,
question.
we want to be frugal and responsible in how we spend too.
Right.
Absolutely. And one of the challenges with the rec center is, yes, it's 23,000 square feet, but.
It's purpose built for recreation too, not for animal shelter.
Right. And you have to,
Wood
when you're
floors.
laying out a shelter, you have areas that you're setting up, okay, stray intake, you've got a certain flow that you do your cleaning in. You want it set where it's all efficient, and these repurposed also brings in where it's not efficient, it doesn't make sense. Things get placed around weirdly often because of you're having to work inside this already set structure, and all of that upstairs area, it couldn't be anything really other than staff,
Let me rephrase. Everyone here understands the existing situation can't continue.
Yeah.
Okay, we just need to feel
Well,
comfortable.
and we have not hired a designer to look at a design phase. I mean, the city could say, let's take that and use a little bit on the assessment of that, but I knowing how shelters need to be laid out and the very specific niche of construction that occurs for building proper shelters, they're very specific in design. And they're more like creating a hospital, somewhere between a prison and a hospital kind of facility than anything would be like for a rec center.
So what
I know Lucas he wanted.
I think it's just a pretty simple thing here. Like, I come from a part of the country where there's a lot of buildings that historically have to preserve the facades. And so I just know, because it would always be in the news, like, yeah, we could build a new one for $10, but it's going to be $50,000 because we're trying to gut it without damaging any of the whatever. And I think this was really one of those situations.
Yeah.
Right? The voters aren't going to know that. So it's important that part of the message, if we want to get it done, is, hey, anybody with any expertise could walk in the door and tell you it's going to be a lot cheaper to knock it over than it is to try and preserve a couple of walls. And that's like, people need to hear that, otherwise they're going to be like, well, so you guys even paying attention, right?
Y'all need
I think
to be
it's kind of as simple as that.
Yeah,
y'all need to be prepared to defend on that, to be
Sure.
able to explain that, because that's what people are they're gonna be like, gosh, I want to, but I have all these questions. And so, and I suspect you're gonna get, if this goes to a discussion with council, I suspect you're gonna have people questioning the same thing. And
Sure.
so you have a little ramp.
Because I've talked to them about it.
I think you have a little ramp up. I think you need to be prepared back pocket to be able to say, yes, we looked at this. This is what this facility master planner said. This is what we're talking about. And because the easy sell is look at the conditions. The hard one is getting people to understand, did you make the right decision if we're going to spend this much money? So.
I was just start working on a Facebook post. Exactly what you're working on, where you're headed, why you need it.
Yeah.
Because the more people see it, they'll be better prepared for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you'll need it. Like, you seem very passionate about it, so pass it on to the other people.
Yeah, it should be all over Pflugerville right
I just did a perfunctory search and just simply said, what does a $20 million animal shelter look like? It named about 5 different categories, and one of them was on-site veterinary hospital. So we're talking about hiring people. So we're talking about employees coming in, workspace coming in there. So we don't.
So we're not proposing a vet hospital. Yeah, we're.
Well, my point is that the 5 different things that it came up with would
That's what you get for $20 million.
That's moving to Pflugerville to have a job in that particular environment. If I were an animal shelter director, I wouldn't go to our current at all. Does that make sense? Does it
Yeah,
make
yeah.
sense? Yeah. So I mean, that's another way to.
Yeah. Yeah, and the consultant actually went and looked at cities and intakes that were comparable to us to compare to, and size of shelters and stuff, and designs and stuff out there, and they came up with a rough design. Now, we need a real architect to do proper design, right?
Yeah.
Right.
The shelter is like my top thing, but we are 8 minutes from our finish time and we still have more stuff to hear about. Do you think we could hear about the downtown parking stuff?
That's great. Thanks for the segue.
Perfect. Let's go.
All right, thank you.
I do.
So this project is to provide for short-term and long-term public parking solutions in the downtown core. Downtown core is generally shown on that map. It's the historic core of our downtown area. And these parking solutions would be to support businesses, development, redevelopment, as well as the revitalization of this historic downtown core. The primary goals of this project would be to secure land for future parking garage, because we want to make sure that we have that in place, and we secure that to ensure that we have solutions down the road. Because in terms of downtown planning, I like to compare it, well actually I compare a lot of planning to a Rubik's Cube, but I'll just go ahead and use it for downtown. Downtown planning, these puzzle pieces can move without kind of foresight. There's a lot of moving pieces, and so there's always this kind of constant round of analysis, ensuring that we've got enough parking, are we providing adequate water and wastewater services for upsizing lines to support development. I'm just kind of giving just some examples of how these pieces move. Our goal is to ensure that we have a plan moving forward, and that when these pieces start to move, such as development starts to reoccur, or is occurring downtown, as well as any sort of transition in land uses. So for instance, a restaurant or bar have different parking needs than an office. So in terms of analysis of parking, we have this vision of doing this analysis every 5 years, right? We did one in 2019. It showed us where we needed some improvements to meet the current needs. So we see some pockets that we need to kind of address. And so that the primary goal is to secure land for public parking a structured garage, as well as to construct surface level parking to meet current and near-term needs. It's to kind of ensure that we're keeping the eye on the ball, right? And so with the construction of surface parking, this would include that of like a parking lot, right-of-way parking. We do have some segments along Main Street and along First where we we do not have an extension of sidewalk with parking, so we might want to look at that. There's also some parking needs on the south side of Pecan, and if you are at all interested, I can show you a little map, because I'm a very visual person, I hope y'all are as well. But it shows somewhat of a heat map of where we start to see some of the parking overflow or parking needs. It shows an occupancy survey of the parking condition. So orange, red, those are areas at which we start to see overflow or areas where we are nearing capacity for parking in that area. And so that represents some of our initial analysis of current parking needs back in 2019. Please know that, land uses change from time to time. We also have an existing city hall facility that may be redeveloped at some point in the future. And what we continually hear from the development community as well as the business community, it's the first comment or question when they come to speak to us is parking. It's the first thing. So it's really quite fascinating how that works out, but the redevelopment of City Hall cannot really occur until we resolve or have a solution to more public parking in that general area. The 5.1 million, this does not cover structured parking in terms of construction, but it may allow for that of the design for it. If we see that the additional analysis shows that we need to go ahead and put that online, start the design process. This project also includes miscellaneous improvements because if we are to build right-of-way parking, we would need to make sure that we have the sidewalk that is abutting it. So there's miscellaneous improvements that are associated with the parking, so lighting and stuff like that. If this project does not move forward, whether it's not included in the bond or is not approved in the bond, this project and parking in general, downtown parking, will always be an item on the downtown action plan. But in the near term, though, we may not have the parking solutions or the confidence level that we desire to ensure that we can provide that long-term solution. So that's generally kind of our thought process behind this particular project. It's to help get the ball moving in the direction of ensuring that we're not creating barriers for development for business owners. So.
Layman's question, sorry I keep stealing all the talking time. Since this has design and presumably where you'd want the structured parking to go, but not the actual construction of it, I don't know how much parking garages cost. Is that something that would be handled potentially through a future bond, or is that something on a level that would be fundable through city budget?
Yeah, so the construction of a parking garage will definitely require another bond. But the timing of the construction of that is highly variable. And so that's one of the reasons why this particular item has a slew of options, because we do anticipate that the additional feasibility and analysis and looking at any sort of scenarios and variables for land use changes within the existing building stock, this would at least allow for us to pursue surface parking to address those needs so that we can kind of build up to it. But we definitely want to secure the land for the parking garage. And we do anticipate that garage being on the north side of Pecan in the downtown core, just because it would serve more businesses, and recognizing that if there's a difference between putting it on the north side and the south side, we would opt for the north side of Pecan.
Have you figured out how many spots you're looking, how many cars you want to accommodate?
Yeah, so that would be in an additional parking study. So we're gonna continue to analyze every 5 years to ensure that we have adequate parking. And it's really just to help make sure that we minimize the amount of parking in the neighborhood or overflow parking in the neighborhoods. So that's the
But if you
rationale.
start off with surface parking,
Uh-huh.
how much, like, because I know structure parking, you may have to figure that out. What would it be giving initially for spaces for surface parking? What are you trying to target?
Cost per
No, no,
How
like,
many- how many
like how
spaces?
many? Are you
okay.
saying like we're gonna have a surface
Yeah,
lot
do
that
not
has
have
20
that
cars?
But
Like,
we
what are-
do have like general locations of, like for instance, the businesses
Mhm.
south of Pecan, and I'll try to give some directions. So between Railroad and let's call it Second, south of Pecan, you have a lot of businesses that don't have adequate parking, and that's one of the reasons why you start to see the parking in the neighborhood. And you can kind of see it on that map, it's shown in red, that one block, that's where we start to see the parking in the neighborhood, that's that one pocket. And then the other spaces are really just to make sure that, you know, our main street has a continuous, cohesive streetscape with that right-of-way parking. So in that core area. So that's generally what we're trying to achieve.
So does that, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry,
No, go ahead and finish.
Go for it. And then ensuring that we have land that could, is adequate to have structured parking on it. In terms of dimensional standards.
So
We don't have the quantity of parking, we have more of locational, parking, projects.
So are you saying you don't anticipate any big changes in the downtown core within the next 5 years?
In terms of development or parking?
Yes, well, yeah, because development would spur parking, right? So
Right.
if you know where the development is, then you would know where you would need the parking to be. So I'm just trying to wonder how it fits on the Rubik's Cube and how you're turning it, right? So,
for the parking conditions north of Pecan, and this may not be truly represented on the map, but what you have is, I'll cut to the chase. Princess Craft site. That site has been used as overflow parking for many years, not because it was approved, it's private property. It's just something that has happened because of all of the businesses around it and their customers needing a place to park. So we do anticipate needing to find more space for public parking on the north side of Pecan as well.
Sure.
And the reason why I keep on talking about the north side and the south side of Pecan in separate ways is because Pecan Street itself is a perceived and a physical barrier. And so from a kind of psychological component when people are driving and walking to businesses, there's a clear line of demarcation of, nope, if a business is on the south side, I'm gonna park on the south side somewhere. So that's why I'm talking about them separately.
Is there any parking that's going with the new city hall?
There is, and that parking is to serve and support the development of that area. And it goes back to that kind of psychological sort of component of how do drivers behave. The Downtown East Development Project, I think it's very unlikely a person will park on the Downtown East garage to intentionally go to a business in the core. It's just one of those things where
Too many blocks.
yeah, you're just not going to do it.
walking,
Yeah, you're not
and
going to
if
do
they
it.
can park in the neighborhood, they'll do so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and
You're not going to do it.
Would a parking analysis kind of go hand in hand with like a traffic impact analysis? Because with more parking, I anticipate so that the roadways would also start
Yeah, so
compacting.
a parking analysis is kind of similar to that of how a TIA is drafted. It's based off of land uses. And so that's always constantly evaluating that need for any sort of transition of uses. And so any little piece of the puzzle that somehow is, not quite lining up, an analysis has to be provided. So with parking downtown, it's never a situation where you complete a project, you're done, you don't have to ever go back to it and reanalyze. It's something that it's just always going to be on our action plan, is ensuring that we have adequate public infrastructure. And from a downtown perspective, public parking is considered public infrastructure, like critical public infrastructure.
Why, in your opinion, do you think the public parking, when we looked at the survey and looked at our evaluation for public parking, everybody ranked it lower than everything else? In the survey, everybody ranked it lower than everybody else. Does anybody have any idea for that? Because I think it's very important.
Everybody did.
I think.
No, but I mean, the score was like 11, where everything else.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, and then in the survey, it was also ranked the lowest.
In planning, downtown parking is always a very subjective discussion, because in Texas, it is very hot, and people expect, they prefer to be able to walk maybe 1 block at max to get to their site. What's really interesting is that if you take a block in downtown and compare it to the parking lot at Target in Stonehill, it's the same distance. They're willing to do that, but you're also walking like a true block, city block within Target. And that is acceptable, but it's also air conditioned, right? So, in general, just from a my own perspective, we have a fairly decent supply of parking in our downtown. We just don't have the flexibility to ensure that we are creating that balance that the neighborhood wants us to ensure, that we are making sure that it's not jeopardizing or disrupting the neighborhood. So we're trying to be respectful of that. But generally, we do have parking solutions on the north side of Pecan, but we do hear quite a bit from property owners where there are parking disputes because of, their customers parking on private property and they're not supposed to be there.
So I think too, though, it's hard to compete with animals in parks. That's why parking comes lower on how you respond to it. Your passion for animals, for parks, you can feel those things. You have animals in your homes, and parking, I think, has always come third to that.
Downtown parking, I mean, let's be honest, how many people go to downtown?
Well, that's because there's no parking.
That's catch-22.
That's part of it, Dennis, but the other part is, what is in downtown that would draw people there for any reason other than to eat, come back?
That's
You're talking about
the key.
your festivals, that's different.
It's how you sell it. Like, would you like to have lower taxes? Yeah. The way we do that is we get more businesses to come into town. Oh, that sounds good. How do you attract more business downtown? Well, they gotta have parking or they'll have no customers. So, we'd like to look into adding parking so we can attract more businesses, so we can lower your taxes and you can have a cool downtown to go to. And then suddenly it becomes like, oh, that makes my life better. I can give a shit about the people that live there that have parking disputes, but that, lowering my taxes and having somewhere to go on the weekend sounds great. That's the
Yeah, doing both of those,
For
yeah.
me, I was gonna say, like, for me, this is a lot more information than what y'all provided originally. I really appreciate that, because I had a
Agreed.
lot, I was like, I'm
I
not.
was rambling, I apologize.
I know, I was not feeling it. But I'm also like, so you have this parking analysis occupancy study in 2027. Is that using money from the bond to do that?
Yes.
So you're saying, so it feels like there are lots of little, I don't know, pieces of your Rubik's Cube, however you want to do it. But you want some kind of surface spot to provide an immediate or fairly immediate relief. But there's also the doing a study to kind of do some future, like, this is what we're going to need, here's some additional work that needs to be done. You're talking about doing lighting, sidewalks, doing surface, kind of taking care of some of that. I saw something somewhere where there were some ADA accessibility issues. So it feels like there are lots of little things that are rolled into this 5 million. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Yeah.
The parking study or feasibility study that I have, or that we have in this project, is to do a more detailed analysis to project redevelopment sites that could potentially occur over time, so that we could come to that ultimate number of how many parking spaces do we think we will need in a 20, 30-year span, based off of reasonable sites that can be redeveloped.
Okay.
And with potential land use combinations of that. So that's kind of all of it in a nutshell. But I can answer any questions that you may have.
I was just gonna say, I think like in general, the discussion could use maybe a little more of like hypotheticals, because it's really abstract, like the space isn't there, it's all just kind of an idea and a generalization. But if you're presenting the ideas like, this would add this many spaces to the east side of Railroad, or like, look at this corner of Main Street and whatever, this is what it could look like with this sort of bond in place. Because I think there's a lot of little pieces, like you said, and it could kind of manifest into anything at this point. So I think like when like from a practical standpoint, as far as like people being able to visualize like tangible results, for me that would be helpful. That's just my
Because I was going to ask, where are you going to find parking spaces south of Pecan? Like where's the space for that? Just in general.
The ESD building in Travis County?
So there are kind of two options, and it's two options even north side too, is we can look at right-of-way parking. Some of those north-south streets, they don't accommodate that right-of-way parking because of the cross-sections. The other option for south of Pecan is we have private parking lots along that extent that are inefficient the way they're designed. We could potentially look at consolidating them, repaving them. That's going into detail, but please know that we haven't had discussions with property owners about those ideas. I think what we're trying to do is ensure that we have a lot of options that we can explore, and in that feasibility study, we can further analyze all of the options on the table, and if some don't stick because of timing, or the property owners would prefer that they remain as private parking, then we can look at in other locations. That's kind of our thought process, is that we wanted to have enough flexibility to move pieces of the Rubik's Cube if a couple of the pieces don't work out the way we would like.
Isn't the big piece that has already worked out, that should be sold as what's selling, why we need this, is because we are currently developing downtown core. We just put the city hall there.
No, that's downtown east, that's not the core.
Well, that's my question then. Are we not, where City Hall is, where the development is supposed to go in north of Pecan, right? Isn't there supposed to be new development there?
So the construction you see
Yes,
across from HEB, that's the new city hall.
right,
The current city hall is on Main Street and First.
correct.
And so when we talk about redevelopment of that and need for parking, that we do anticipate that being repurposed for something better.
Exactly. In other words,
Right.
so the whole point is that we've got a new city hall. You've got people moving in from wherever your locations are. City employees are going to now occupy that building, a lot of them. But my point is that you've got then other development by repurposing, like you said, the old city hall,
Exactly.
getting development in there, et cetera.
Right.
And you're saying this has nothing to do with finding parking in that area?
No, so as the current city hall is being repurposed, we'll anticipate additional uses, retail, things that drive a higher level of parking.
Right.
Which would drive a higher parking need in that core that's away from the new city hall that's under construction today.
Okay, so where is this as compared to where the old city hall is, for example?
This right here, what's in red is where current city hall is.
City Hall is right.
The area that's in white to the east, that's where the new city hall is.
Okay. So my only point is, isn't the parking in that area, in the $5 million that you're looking at for additional parking or planning have to do with the area that's being redeveloped, with where the new city hall area is going?
It's for the redevelopment of the current.
I understand.
facility, yeah.
I just mean that, but the old city hall is not that far from the new city hall. It's all in the same area.
Right, but the parking garage for the new city hall
Right.
is it's the distance from that to the old downtown.
Yeah,
It's
that's
the
right.
walkability.
And isn't there
Those are
like,
those are
isn't
separate
there also
focuses.
the, what is it, Mocan? Isn't there? like,
Mocan
you have
and the
to
creek.
cross? Yeah, but there's some actual barriers.
Main Street will be constructed, so you could walk, but to Aaron's point about like parking in Target, right, it might be the same distance, it's about what you're willing to walk. But also when you're thinking about parking for any land use, right, you're gonna drive a different demand for the number of spaces for an office as you would is gonna be higher for a retailer or a restaurant. And so the parking done for downtown East, what's under construction today,
Right.
that is being parked to support the new city hall, the new rec center, and the retail going in there.
Okay.
So what this is proposed to do is just to add additional parking to support higher uses like retail and restaurant in the core, where we only have a few today. And as the current city hall is redeveloped, that additional parking could support uses that demand more parking.
Okay.
And past 5 p.m. in the afternoon, because a lot of
Yeah,
this
it's
is
just
right
confusing.
close
We
to
got
one.
two downtowns.
And we're trying to
Don't need
we're
new
trying to get it
names.
all as one. Yeah. Yeah.
Downtown west, downtown east.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Kevin.
OG downtown something.
Yeah.
So let's say you get
Old West.
the area and you get a surface parking lot built.
Mm-hmm.
Since it's city owned, is this gonna be, paper park, or is it gonna be open free parking, or is it gonna be paid parking? And if so, what are the hours, or have y'all even?
Or will that be part of the study, right?
Right.
Happens in 2027.
I think we'd look at that as part of the study and would certainly be something that we would discuss with city
So
council.
no discussion at this point yet?
Not-
Okay, yeah.
no.
That's fair
This is the
enough.
first step toward that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Good. Okay,
Yeah.
great. All right, Ryan.
I think for you, they need to work a deal where you get a free spot.
Put me on the list.
But I don't need a
Right.
parking
No.
downtown.
I don't know,
Well,
we're
if
not
there
all
was
gonna be there
space-
I can walk
simultaneously.
from where I live. To my
This
house, I
is
can walk.
maybe
I'll walk it. I'm
like, should the old city hall become a parking lot?
Parking garage, you mean?
It's gonna start as a parking lot, and then later they'll get more money to make it a garage.
Let's start out making a garage.
What'd you say, demolish?
I mean, would that be part of what?
Yeah, make it a
considering
garage.
Is just wrecking the old city hall and making that a parking lot?
It'd be
I'm
the
just thinking
puddle.
we should do the
I've been
animal
asked
Like,
that
it's
by
good
people in
spot.
Put
public,
the
so I
animal
just
shelter
wonder,
in downtown.
would that
and
be
then
part
we
of the
all
parking
park-
analysis?
It's certainly an option.
Yeah.
I would say that when you look at downtowns, your prime real estate in a downtown is your main street, and you wouldn't want that to be a parking lot. You'd want it to be a building
Build
facade where
business.
you're engaging with
business,
the
yeah.
people there, and then that parking is found behind it.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me, but somebody on city council asked me that, so.
Sure.
All right.
All right, we ready?
Good. Let's do it.
I have just a short 45-minute.
You're out of here.
And that's without questions.
I'll keep it quick. I promise.
Give us the Cliff Note
Yeah,
version.
Cliff Notes
I think
it is.
we've been
Got
reading
it.
through this.
Okay, a lot has happened
I know, I found that
since
really
our last meeting, April 20th. The city staff participated in some community events, Slice of Pflugerville, Coffee and Fuel, Music in the Park. We got some great feedback, particularly at Slice of Pflugerville, where we had a few different engagement activities. We were the survey was open, and we were pushing the survey. So that was a great opportunity to meet with the community. You might have noticed also we've continued to push out newsletters and continued communication utilizing Facebook and other city communication channels. And of course, the big thing, the community survey closed on May 11th. Okay. Regarding the community survey, we're going to dive into the results, but first, here's how we shared it with the community. So in the Key to the City and weekly council updates, we were pushing information about the survey, encouraging participation. In terms of digital promotion, we had it on the city website, and in fact, a week or so in, we got some primetime placement on the homepage with a widget that made it much more visual. And then our Facebook post, the city Facebook post, really helped, and you saw a spike in numbers at any time that we promoted the survey on Facebook. The numbers went up. So that's just a reminder of if people say, "Hey, I didn't see it," or "I didn't hear about it," we were definitely active in promoting the survey. Okay. Let's take a look at some of the results. So, for a short period of time, from my perspective in public engagement, this was a huge response in a short period of time. We had 357 total responses. One important reminder that I want you to carry this through. This is not a scientific survey, right? This was a convenience survey, meaning that people got to select them, to participate themselves, right? So it had to make sense for them to participate. A scientific survey, selects participants through probability-based representative methods and things like this. This was not that. So take the results with a grain of salt. The whole intent of the community survey is just to provide you with another tool, right? And we'll get into some of the numbers, like regarding who took the survey and things like that. But it gives you a good sense. But again, not a scientific survey. So five key themes or takeaways. Obviously, the first I mentioned: strong connection and engagement from responses. Getting 357 total responses. 2, there was a broad recognition that investment is needed, and I'll caveat that with caution, and we'll look at that a little bit closer, because when we changed the language from investment to include impacts such as tax or voting, there was some variability. So I'll share that momentarily. Again, as we mentioned, transportation ranked the highest. Good thing we have different funding sources for transportation, but it's important. Parks and trails remain a clear priority, and you'll see that across the board. 4 and 5, I just wanted it because we have some bar charts that we'll get into, but there was a lot of open-ended responses or opportunities for people to provide comment and just give us a rundown of their comments that way. So some big takeaways from the open-ended comments were really regarding parks and trails and recreation. These things in Pflugerville are viewed as a core quality of life infrastructure. So many respondents describe Pflugerville's parks and trail system as one of the city's strongest assets. They want to continue investment to keep pace with growth. Residents often linked parks and trails to family friendliness and health, community identity and pride, walkability, environmental stewardship. So there's definitely a positive pull towards parks and continued investment in that. The fifth and final piece, affordability and cost transparency are important factors. So as we move forward, people want to know what the cost impacts are going to be. And the survey results demonstrated that it doesn't necessarily matter what the cost is, so long as they understand what the benefit is. So there's a solid connection between cost and benefit, and if they see the benefit, it's good. So yeah, that was my last point. Cost sensitivity does not equal opposition to investment. Rather, residents want disciplined, transparent decision making.
Doing great.
Good. Okay. All right. So looking at the residents that took this survey, 96, I should say, residents of Pflugerville, 96% of respondents said they lived in Pflugerville. So there were some that were not within city limits. 92% of those respondents are registered to vote. So it's a pretty solid showing of respondents from Pflugerville also registered to vote. 56% of respondents have been connected to Pflugerville for the last 10 years. So key takeaway here, high registered to vote underscores the relevance of feedback to the future election. All right, closer look at some of the findings in bar charts. Make sure we're on the same one. Yep. Okay. So we asked respondents to rank the project priority areas. So you'll see that we have transportation. At the time, transportation was still being considered as a potential project bucket. Parks, trails, and recreation, animal services and facilities, downtown parking improvements, and then other. So anytime somebody ranked, say, parks, trails, and recreation number 1, it received 5 points. So the weighted score that you see on the right-hand side of the bar chart is how it ended up ranking. So transportation received a ranking of 4.38, parks and trails at 3.57, animal services and facilities 2.51, and so forth. Any questions on that? We break down what that support looks like a little bit more right here. In a series of subsequent questions following that, how would you prioritize? We asked participants to share their level of support, specific words, level of support. And on that scale was a strongly support option, somewhat support, neutral, somewhat oppose, strongly oppose. So the blue and orange are strongly support or somewhat support. And you'll see with downtown parking, there's a large neutral. The light blue is somewhat opposed and then strongly opposed. So you can see that there's strong support for parks. Obviously, with PAWS or the animal services and facilities piece, there's a mix of strong support, somewhat support, and a fairly healthy neutral. Interesting enough, I'll just a comment on the neutral piece. There was a question later in the survey that kind of connected a need for additional information to be able to answer that. So a lot of the neutral kind of responses are connected to hey, I need more information before I can properly assess this.
A quick technical question, because you have 1 through 5, with 5 being 1 point, is this is broken up right here, so is 5 strongly opposed? So you still get 1 point if you're strongly opposed, or was there negative points with strongly opposed? I'm just kind of a technical.
Yeah, different question.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're different.
Yep.
Okay.
This
Not related to each other.
This
Okay.
yes, this question didn't use the same ranking.
Okay.
Or
just solely based on percentages.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Percent of who's picking each one of those categories.
Yep.
Okay.
And there was a question for each one. So I forget what question it was. Let's say question 21 was, what is your support for transportation projects? And 74% of people that completed the survey said that they strongly support transportation.
Okay.
Yep.
I just thought they were linked, so that was my
good question. Yep. Okay. Regarding the topic of investing, respondents showed confidence in the need to invest to keep up with growth. 45% are very confident that Pflugerville needs to make new investments to keep up with growth. That just stands out there, and kind of a mix after that. Next question. Respondents showed general support for investing in improvements. So the question was, how supportive are you of the city investing in improvements? Huge support. Very supportive at 40%, somewhat supportive at 29.97%. Smaller numbers for neutral, somewhat opposed or very opposed. So again, there's support for investing. Okay. Now, remember when I said, let me caveat that, but with caution. So, how likely are you to vote in support of a bond program? So just introducing the word voting here, we saw kind of a mix of preferences, but still, as you look at very likely or somewhat likely, you're 23, 24%, neutral at 10%, and then somewhat unlikely at 12, but very unlikely at 28.5. So just that shift from, investing to voting kind of introduce some variance there. Also, I think some of that mix seems to indicate they're, again, either uncomfortable or need more information before supporting the bond, and so some of the importance of continued communications and information sharing.
Quick question.
Yep.
Because you had mentioned before that neutral meant that they needed more information.
Yeah.
And when you looked at the individual ones, you could see which ones had the big neutral. But when you're looking at this one, as far as voting, people aren't neutral at all. Only 10%. So in terms of needing more information.
Yeah.
Why the?
That it's a good question.
They want it for free.
Well, that could be it.
Yeah, I think there's a residual. People are still upset about money that, they have this feeling that we're still paying a lot of,
we haven't got to that part
yet.
paying for a lot of things. And so when you say vote, they're like, whoop.
Yeah.
Well, it's an actionable item. It's like saying, hey, you want to go bungee jump off a bridge? Sure. Some people are neutral. Then you get them up there, and now they're even less neutral.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, not a scientific survey. Neutral wasn't always connected with need more information.
Right. And this is also not an individual, right? The other ones are individual statements. This is like a
Just
whole,
a bond.
An overall.
Yeah. So that also accounts for some of that too.
Yes, good point.
That's great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. This is interesting. So another ranking type of question where points were weighted. The question that was asked was, what's the most important factor when deciding whether to support a bond program? Okay. So The number one score, the weighted score, was clear community benefits and goals. Tax impacts was second at 4.73, long-term value at 4.43, safety improvements, cost of the city, and serving areas with need. Rounded out the options there. But clear community benefit and goals and tax impacts 1 and 2. That's how the average score weighted out there. Okay. Any other questions on the survey? That concludes my.
What, is there anything that on this one you're just talking about? Clear community benefits, tax impact, long-term value. They're not that different, at least the one on the bottom scale, the 4.43, 473, and 479. What do we judge from that? What conclusions do we? Is it more important the tax impact, or is it more important that the community benefits as a whole?
I go back to the fact, and this came through in some of the open-ended questions too, that yes, tax impacts are important, but if people understand again what the benefit is, what the goal is, what the larger picture is, they're more willing to pay the tax impact. Yeah.
Yeah.
You better be clear to me about what the benefits are, and you better be clear to me about how much it's going to cost. That's what I take from that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Both of
And I
those need
also-
to be clear.
Fair. And I also think, and it's something Tracy she briefly said earlier, was that it doesn't impact your taxes until we take the money for the bond. And so, like, that's a key one. Like, when people are looking, like, is this gonna happen January 1? Chances are no. But where does it hit? I think people Yeah, I think people need to have an understanding. And again, it's a gap, I think, where people aren't as clear as how does this impact me? When is it going to impact me? When does this? I think my takeaway on a lot of this is people need more robust. They need richer data. They need richer information on it.
To help start with that, we didn't call this out yet. So as a part of the public engagement update, we have these ready for you, pending maybe some parks updates.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're for you. We're going to make them public after we get the updates taken care of, and we'll
through council.
Yeah. Yes, and after everything gets through council. But the idea is that this would be another tool. These would be posted on the project website, and in working with city comms and just thinking through maybe featuring a project on Facebook and kind of building out a communications campaign to support that.
That's great. Okay, so with the public feedback in mind and in hearing your valuable comments, we agree. It's about how we tell the story, how we got here, what was considered, having that richer data provided to the public as much as we can, and our messaging is going to be important for the public if council is also supportive of this. We also want to, just remind you all that we feel like you all understand there is a larger CIP at hand, there's growth, there's demand, and you all do see and have evaluated projects in the vision of the city and the desires of the community, especially your neighbors. You all have made comments saying that costs do increase over time, and we've heard comments that you all seem supportive of continuing the momentum made in the city in building to meet the public's expectations, while also your main concern has been balancing that tax rate with the needed infrastructure. And so with that, we are proposing 3 propositions, and I want to make sure we understand there has to be 3 separate ones because there are different project needs. And also we want to base it on the success, what we believe is the success of the proposition. So Proposition A would be parks, because you saw that in the survey. Proposition B would be the Paws Animal Shelter. And Proposition C would be the downtown parking. And that would how it would be aligned on the ballot. And again, as things are higher in the ballot, they're more likely to be approved. You get more of the yes, and the lower they are on the ballot, the more risk you get of the no. Okay. And so just overall financial impact, we're talking about a 5-cent increase to the tax rate at its peak, and that would be an estimated $187 annually, just over $15 a month in impact. And holistically looking at the city taxes paid on average, this would be a less than an 8% increase. But as a homeowner, you all see more taxing entities like the school district and underground water districts, et cetera. It's not quite a 2% increase. Okay.
And so this price is based on the median household?
It is.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Okay. Okay.
The one, sorry, I did
Yes.
one question on the page where you have the proposed amounts and the estimates.
Yes.
Y'all are estimating that valuations are gonna go down in 2027? So the appraisal districts are in agreement with this?
So we got our information from the appraisal.
Okay,
district.
interesting.
It's very interesting. Okay.
So what, I'm just curious, if we want all these to pass, why don't you reverse them? Because I think by the time you get to C, people aren't gonna vote for it, and it's the cheapest one. We know people wanna vote for parks, so why don't you leave that for last? Instead of having, the downtown parking
That's
last.
interesting. I haven't thought of it that way. I have not thought of it that way.
Yeah, just reverse the order.
We could reverse the order and switch parks and downtown parking.
Okay.
That is not a bad suggestion. Are any other thoughts on that?
Thank you, not
And
bad.
this
Look,
gets
like
more
I'm not
free
dead.
sandwiches over there.
All the ones that Kevin spilled water on?
No, but I think that
Can always
does make
counsel
sense
me.
because I'm acting on the assumption that Prop C is the cheapest one because it's lowest on the list. Yes, that might be the lowest by people's reading priority, but it being significantly less expensive than the other two might make it an easier sell. But I do like the idea of putting the easiest thing to get at the top, so.
Reverse the order.
Good idea.
Yeah, I think there's just maybe I could see people saying it's an optics one. I mean, it's the cheapest one. It's 6% of the total bond if they were to all pass. But I could also see people saying, what is, if we are trail capital of Texas and this is what, is a big draw, do the optics change by saying that's not as much of a priority as the downtown parking, which I still think, I think you need to, even on a proposition, it needs to not just say downtown parking. There needs to be some other modifier because there's so much confusion over this.
With the
Even
word
downtown,
parking.
downtown
Yeah.
core
Yeah.
or old
Oh,
downtown,
yeah, I would go with
historic
old
downtown, something to modify
Not
that.
downtown.
Revitalization parking.
There you go.
There's a good
Yeah,
one.
actually, that's not bad at all.
That's
What
not
did you-
bad.
Yeah,
what did you say?
downtown
Downtown
revival.
revitalization parking.
That would be DRP.
Yeah.
Old downtown revitalization.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
Yeah.
I think we
Yeah.
need to call it
Well,
Old
there's a-
West.
So,
Or historic
Historic
downtown
will work
parking
better.
or something.
Okay. Let us run that by the bond legal counsel and make sure that jives. But I agree. I think we can add a little bit of wording to the proposition. I'm not going to commit to what that word's going to be yet.
Okay, so this wouldn't be necessarily the wording for the proposition on the ballot, or would this
Yeah.
be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mhm.
oh,
It will be.
yeah. This,
You're
I
going to
don't
have
think
a
this is
little bit
enough.
more wording, and then you're going to have a little bit more
you have
wording in the
description.
measure.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you
Does the
put
dollar amount show up?
Yes.
Yes.
It is split out.
Yes. Between A, B, and C.
Okay.
Yes.
So in that case, you should put pause as number A.
We can.
Because people are gonna ask a lot of questions about it, right? Like, what's in it? So if you start with pause being A, try to get it approved and put parking as B and C, everyone's already voting for parks to begin with.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Thoughts?
park should be C no matter what.
Right.
Parks can be seen.
Get
We were
pause
B and
counts.
C last time.
It worked out okay.
It worked out okay.
So animal shelter,
I said it should be the first
Okay.
one.
I mean,
Parking.
I still think the parking should be first personally, but
Okay.
I think the
mean,
parking
that's
also.
semantic.
One more.
So I guess let's take this for just a second. It sounds like, and I
Oh,
could
wait a
be
sec.
wrong.
The other reason you want parking first is that way you got the dollar amount. Little amount here, then the
Middle.
animal control is more, and then parks, by the time they voted for A and B, it's kind of like, well, we really do want parking.
Exactly, and if you want the parking to pass, I don't think, after you do the animal shelter,
Yeah.
I'm not sure they're gonna vote for the parking.
See,
No,
I'm thinking
yeah,
it's
they-
the other way. I've already spent 6120, you know.
Right.
Well,
They're
I don't know the psychology.
People are
so-
looking not to.
So, I have an
No,
unpopular
it's like another
opinion that I've heard from
glass of
people. I'm not sure that everybody's gonna wanna vote for, spend $61 million for parks,
Yeah.
given what has gone on in the city,
Yeah.
water and downtown east and a whole bunch of other stuff. And so, they may call it all off if you start with the parks. 5 million to 20 million are more approachable
This is a
than that
good
61
gut
million.
feeling.
With the trail capital already mission accomplished.
Exactly.
Okay.
But I think within the park stuff, you've got some meaty,
You do, but it's still
high-profile
$61 million,
Yeah.
Okay.
which is a lot to my tax rate.
So I'd like to align us. Let's start from the top. Does the BAC recommend that the city place an infrastructure bond on the November 2026 ballot?
Say again?
Does the bond advisory committee recommend to place an infrastructure bond on the 2026 ballot? The reason why we're going to go through these one by one, it is very important
Sure.
that we are clear to council of what the recommendation is. Okay? And it doesn't have to be unanimous. And I think it's important that we know that. But this is something that your chairwoman will be presenting to council. And she needs a clear message. So I guess let's start there. Do you as committee members recommend that an infrastructure bond be placed on the November 2026 ballot?
So this stuff is considered infrastructure? is what we're
Yes,
saying. Okay.
every bit of it.
Are you gonna ask us individually?
No,
No, show of hands?
let's do a motion.
Okay.
Someone could move,
Okay.
if you agree, move to place an infrastructure bond on the November 2026 ballot. You need a motion and a second.
I will move that we vote on it if we suggest it.
I'll second it.
Then, Chair, you would say all those in favor.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
Aye.
we doing show of hands or you?
Show of hands is probably
Show of
Show of
helpful.
hands.
hands. Aye. All
Okay.
opposed?
2. Okay.
So that motion would pass.
Okay.
Okay.
The second one would be, the BAC recommends the 2026 bond would consist of 3 propositions to include parks, new Paws Animal Shelter, and downtown parking improvements with a name change to be determined.
So I guess before we go there, I mean, is the option that we do all 3, do we have a desire to talk?
About the individual ones in each one?
Yeah, or whether
do.
it would be all 3?
Let's do it.
You can take them individually if you'd like.
Okay.
If that's more digestible, you can start with a motion for parks and then do that.
Okay.
And then we can work on, in a little bit, we can work on the order in which, wherever you land, the order in which you'd recommend those on the ballot.
Okay. So do we have a motion to, I'm thinking about, do we go reverse order now based upon what you said?
Well, we're not, are we
Yeah.
voting on the order right now, or are we just?
Not
No,
voting
we're
on
not.
the order.
Okay, no,
We're not.
yeah,
Hopefully we'll
exactly.
pass that.
Does anyone want to make a motion to consider adding parks to the infrastructure bond? Okay. Any seconds?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor of adding parks to an infrastructure bond?
Raise your hand.
All opposed?
So where's the vote?
4 to 3. We hear what counts to, right?
Yes.
I'm sorry, there was too many hands flying.
I know.
I didn't count, I
Okay,
didn't
can we
count
go
fast
back?
enough.
I think we had four.
Four
Did we
yes.
get,
What about your vote?
I said aye.
It was 5 yes.
So it's 5.
Okay, 5 to
Okay.
4. Okay.
Okay. Do we have a motion to propose New Paws Animal Shelter as as part of the infrastructure bond?
I make a motion to include the new pause animal shelter, and if you don't agree with me.
I second that out of free will, not anything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quick
All
question.
opposed. Oh,
Quick question.
Yes.
The dollar amount or the analysis,
Yes.
what are we voting on? Are we voting for $20 million?
$20.6 million.
Yeah, it's as proposed.
As
What's
proposed?
proposed?
Now, is the city staff going to do anything in terms of any kind of analysis or of,
No, it's.
or is it given at this
As it
point?
is.
It's just as is, right?
That's what we've been doing.
As is?
yeah.
That's why it took so long.
I make a motion that
Well,
the
you already have a
bond-
motion on the floor.
I'll amend that motion to to include the new pause animal shelter as funded currently. As it is.
As proposed.
As
As
proposed to be
proposed.
funded. Does that
Yeah.
satisfy your, okay?
Do we have a second?
Seconded.
Okay. All in favor?
I'm looking.
Okay.
You know, I feel like when y'all started at 1, that was, yeah.
Now, all opposed?
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 All opposed? 3.
Okay.
Okay. And then the last one, do we have a motion on downtown revitalization, parking improvements?
We already did that.
No, we
No,
haven't, we
we
need
haven't
to
done that.
officially do a motion
I'll
on it.
make the motion, I'll
Oh.
propose the motion to
Okay,
pass as proposed.
okay. Do we
Second.
have a second? Okay, all in favor?
Of the downtown,
The downtown parking
The
5
downtown
point
parking,
14.
study to be done, to be renamed later.
okay.
yeah.
Figure out wording.
Okay. And then all opposed?
Okay.
Okay,
Was it
so then we
7?
have 3.
7? 7 yes.
Yes. I counted some.
You did.
You got it, Emily? You're
Yes,
good?
sir.
Okay.
Okay. All right. We need to figure out and vote on what will be Proposition A. So we should have a motion. Yeah. You could do it a couple of ways. You could do like we just, if someone has an idea and says, I think this is the order, you can propose that as a motion. Or Chris, if you have a suggestion.
Well, I was going to say, before we go to that part.
Great.
Because, I mean, this was not unanimous. And I do want to, I really, I mean, if I'm going to be up there and I'm having to
Sure.
speak to this, I would really like to kind of get feedback from people who, their concerns, and make sure I understand that.
Which one are we talking about now?
Any of the ones.
Why don't you,
Any of the what?
Why don't you start with why don't you go, if you want that kind of feedback, go one by one.
Well, why don't we start?
Have we voted for the parks?
You did.
That was the parks?
No, Parks was the
The
first
parks
one.
was
The
first.
first one.
Okay, so we didn't break that down.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
No,
not project
it's-
by
Not the
project.
separate-
Prop A is just one
It's one proposition.
Just one proposition.
I understand, but
Yeah, the breakdown of votes was.
we have not looked at the individual parts. The others are just one item, right?
When parks comes across, it comes up as one
One
proposition.
I know that, but
All
do
of-
we want every one of those items in there?
Well, the motion was to approve the parks that we discussed as one proposition
And it
total
did pass.
of $61 million.
And what was the vote on that?
5 to 4.
Sounds like we didn't all know that that was an option.
The vote was for, how much was the impact on your tax bill every year?
Whatever.
$373 a month, a year. That was what the vote was
A year.
for. Yeah. That's what you guys are asking. Or telling me. What you want.
So maybe let's start with,
So I guess my question is anybody else in terms of the 5 to 4 vote, would their vote change if certain things were left out or put in.
I don't think we can put anything in at this point.
No, well, what I meant by that.
You mean to take out?
Yeah, do we want to take anyone out and then we get more votes?
Well, I don't.
No? Okay. No, keep my vote as is.
Okay. So feedback in terms of concerns over the parks.
You heard mine.
Okay. So was there any particular project that you were concerned about adding in or that you would have preferred taken out?
The, basically anything that is in other words, that which is not already in process because of affordability.
Okay.
Okay. And so that would be.
So anything speculative?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That there wasn't already some progress made on it?
That's correct. And so of the ones that are listed here, the one that does stand out is the Reunion Park.
Reunion Park.
And one of the reasons I asked about the funding was because I know that the Equity Commission had come up with funding for some aspects of it.
Yeah, but that was through hotel occupancy.
I understand
Yeah,
that. But I guess what I'm saying is that that $5 million isn't even for buying the land.
Right.
I thought we were talking about.
No, but that's the land acquisition.
I know, I'm voting for that. You know, once the land's acquired, I mean, you don't even, do we have a buyer? Do we have a seller for the land in the property for the Reunion Park?
We do not.
No, so my point being is that I'm voting for if you get it, fine. I voted for the park, for the land, so that you can do it. And then if later, someone asked a question, the next bond issue could come 3 years from now. Well, right now, you look at this, and it's not even, this one isn't even planned for 3 years. In terms of, if you look at the implementation of that particular one, it doesn't even start until 2028 or something like that.
And the bond money won't be issued until it starts. So it's not like you're voting for a $300 increase January 1, 2027, as we've been saying this entire time. So I don't see how that changes anything.
What it does is it changes the amount in the park in terms of if we don't approve, we don't vote for that.
That was known.
So that's how it changes.
Yeah. Yes. And? Like, how does that affect?
It affects our tax rate.
Right. I'm saying, how does that affect our decision right now? What purpose do we gain by debating that?
Obviously none.
Then why are you bringing it up?
Chris was asking for concerns.
Right.
And so that's what
She
his
asked me for
concern.
concerns.
Chris is the one that asked.
Gotcha.
Yes, here's the thing. I mean, I knew, and I can tell you, I've been thinking a lot about this, and I've a lot of my own personal feelings here. I think where I kind of came down to is there's me as a member of the community, taxpayer, homeowner, but I also keep going back to, is this something the voters need to make a decision on? And that's kind of where I landed. But I do recognize that I knew we weren't going to all be, it wasn't going to be 100%. Probably not consensus. We probably still need to go to majority. But I still feel like it's important to recognize that people had issues and concerns. And I want to make sure that that doesn't get lost in this. Because if we really go back to that mission and we talk about it being transparent, I just, you didn't have to vote for it, but you were here and you were participating. And I think that is equally important. And I think when council needs to weigh on this, because they will be making a decision if it goes forward, they need to understand it was split. And it was close to, if we had one more person here, we may have ended up tied. Right? And so that's where I'm going from. And so I appreciate Mark.
To get ahead of the curve.
So if you were against the parks, why were you against the parks? It sounds like so it would be the first
Right.
place to start.
Right. And I also think we've got Mark and I keep wanting to call you Steve for whatever reason.
That's okay. You can call me Steve.
But I want to hear what y'all's thoughts are in general. I mean, I know
I'll be happy to answer that. For me, the elephant in the room is I think we're off base as a city entirely because that 2019 study is flawed. It's just flat out flawed. It was based on a projection growth of 8% for what, 8 or 10 years.
Are we talking about animal control?
I understand that, but this is my position for all of these bonds, so I'm gonna be general about this. With that study being the reason why these bonds and the master plan, the master plan is flawed because that study is flawed, because now water is overbuilt. We have a big problem with water. That's the elephant in the room for me. It's water. The other thing is, why doesn't the city own its own fire department, but yet we wanna spend more money on a animal shelter bond? Nothing against the animals. Like I said, it's from the basis of, for me, the elephant in the room is 9 years, or how many years ago? 7, 8 years ago, a study was done. And granted, it's all in good faith. Don't get me wrong. But some adjustments need to be done to that master plan, because the ship has sailed this way, but yet the target was actually over here.
And
So I think
things
we're
have
missing the
changed.
target overall on where we should be spending our money. And that's kind of where I'm coming from as a basis on all the bonds. I do appreciate the fact that the voters do get to decide, and that's something I did consider as well. But for me, it's like we're kind of about 30 degrees off on the direction we need to be going. Spending money, especially now that the city budget is so tight.
Right.
That can be, for me, that's all 3 bonds. So if it was a different situation and that 2019 study was great, yet we didn't have this elephant in the room about the water and about the city owning its own fire department, I probably would have been fine with it.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mark?
I can't tell my neighbor to pay that much money.
You can't what?
I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna authorize you to pay $300 a year.
Yeah.
Well, you're not
It's your money, you
authorizing anybody to pay.
Well, you wouldn't be.
Yeah, bond,
The
you're taking somebody's money.
No, what I'm saying is they have a
The
they have a
voters
say
would
in
get
it.
to
Yeah,
decide.
they're gonna have a say in it. They're gonna have a say in taking your money.
So, but wouldn't that be not even letting them decide?
You let them decide. I'm
Right,
okay
but you're
with it.
saying you're voting no because you don't want, you have to.
Yeah, if you don't even
I will
have
vote
to.
no on that too.
Yeah. I think what,
Yeah,
I
I know
mean,
you're not gonna like my answer.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
I think what I'm getting from what you're saying is you don't want to go on record on this committee voting for that.
Yes.
And you're fine with it going to the
The city didn't
public.
present themselves very well.
Right.
To convince me enough to say, hey, you guys can charge me $300 a year.
Mhm.
They could have done a little bit better job, I think, but there's a lot of other things going on
Yeah.
Yes.
with the water. So.
Just to make
But
sure
I'm
that
not
we're on
gonna-
the same page. I hear what you're saying, but I just want to make sure everyone hears. It's 186 for the total for this bond annually.
Yeah.
I was hearing 300, so I just
Yeah,
want to make
so
sure
it's 186.
everybody understood.
No, that was the taxable median value.
Yeah.
It's 186.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, I appreciate all of that. So what about concerns on animal shelter? Because none of these were unanimous.
Well, I voted for it, but
My concern was like,
the dollar amount.
the dollar amount was the main one.
Right.
And like Mark pointed out, why don't we work with Travis County to see if they can build a shelter with the city, right?
The other cities did it, have done it. I think it would be at least something to look at. I mean, we don't have our own fire department. We've got the ESD.
Travis County's had their shelter closed for 3-4 years for intake because they don't have enough space.
Well, maybe you could help them out, keep it open.
Maybe
Maybe if you guys
Right,
collaborate a
right.
little
Sounds
bit
like our
instead
taxes
of
might be higher
fighting
than
each
we
other.
Oh, well, Travis County contracts to Austin, yeah,
Yeah.
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 Okay. And then the last one is the downtown parking.
That I think definitely does need a descriptive change. I did vote for it, but I agree with that feedback.
Agreed.
Yeah. And
That's easy.
I agree with what Mark's saying. I feel like, I think even between now and presenting to council, y'all need to really hone your business case. Really do. I mean,
What? I can't hear
The
you.
business
hone
case.
your
Case.
the business case on a lot of this. Because, I mean, we've had a lot of questions and I appreciate that y'all are coming back and giving more, but like if we're having this much discussion,
Yeah.
you need to get that tight before you go send and present it, and then if council says going forward. Because there's just a lot of what about this? You know, show your process, show your due diligence, give like the there are things to talk about that are the warm fuzzies, but people want some hard evidence and data.
I guess a way to summarize that, if y'all agree, would be that while this committee is not focused on deciding the content of a potential communication campaign, it's our heavy feedback that said communication focuses on the naysaying, the gotchas, the bad faith, devil's advocate type stuff, the why does this have to cost this much? Well, because X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3. Would that be close to what I'm saying?
I probably would word it a little different, but we're going to move on. We'll move on.
Hold on, I got something to say
Be able to
about
tell people, like, here's how this
the bond
benefits your life.
consultants,
Like, they don't understand all the
came up with
administrative reasons
184.
that you guys understand and it explains to us, and now we mostly understand. They just wanna know, how's it gonna make my life better, and is it worth the amount of money that you're asking me to pay?
Actually, this
I
was
don't
city
think that
staff.
case has been made
That was their
very
initial
strong.
plan.
They knew they weren't gonna get
Well, we
that.
appreciate the feedback. We've taken copious notes this evening, and that's the benefit of a committee like this, is to hear this level of feedback so that it's successful moving forward.
I have a general question of the whole process. This is my first time participating on one of these. Is it generally along these lines? Have we done anything necessarily really out of left field compared to previous CIP cases?
So that we only had, with the last time we had this was in 2020. This only comes up every several years, and so from what I recall, it's along the same lines.
Okay. Anything else? Any other shared thoughts, concerns? Okay. Thank y'all.
Okay, great. I'm not sure number 3 or number 4.
I think we're good.
I think we're good.
I have a question, and it's really just in general.
Order of the bonds.
We talked about the elephant in the room, couple of elephants in the room.
You did.
Yeah, I know, the waterways, whether the fire department, why don't we have our own fire, et cetera, et cetera. And that's really the decision that city council needs to focus on. I mean, what
Water and fire?
No, I'm just, not those particular two. They need to, in general, what are their priorities of the city? In terms of.
Absolutely.
You presented to us certain issues, okay? There are ones that you took back off, which is transportation, which we appreciate, because you're funding it, and it's very important. But there are other issues that the taxpayers are looking at that are higher priority than are on this list right now.
Right. So your charge was about what's on this list.
Exactly.
And so, right, of course, there's going to be many other things that the community is thinking about, and that will weigh at the ballot. And so getting your feedback on all of those, like how they might come across through the survey is very beneficial, and we'll see how that plays out. Should council decide to advance any type of bond to a November election.
From here, we need to, I'd suggest someone make a motion, assuming all 3 propositions move to the November 2026 ballot. Proposition A should be X, Proposition B should be X, and Proposition C should be X.
This is the order again.
The order.
I move to strike them all. We get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Actually, you get a second on an X, and you've struck them all.
Well, we already voted on it.
That motion got
We do.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we need to, so our options on, so we have 3 different ways we can start it off.
Be best if maybe someone makes a motion.
Yeah.
And there could be a second on that.
Feel free to disagree. I move to suggest downtown parking A, parks B, pause C.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm kind of agnostic on this one.
Mark, was that a vote?
Okay. Can we keep hands up? Thank you.
Emily's like, I can't kill on
You want to pause last,
Passed by
correct?
6.
You want
6.
pause to be last, is that correct?
That was parking
Parking.
Park-
Animal shelter B, parks C.
Parking, parks, pause. Yeah.
Parking, parks.
Yes, excuse me, yes.
Okay. 6-3.
Okay.
Okay, so we're good there.
Proposition
Thank
A,
you.
downtown parking. Proposition B, parks. Proposition C, pause.
C for cat.
Okay. I'm gonna,
Yeah.
okay.
They know that.
All right, as far as the timing, we are projecting to go in front of City Council July 14th. There'll be a discussion with council on your recommendations. They'll get a briefing on all the projects, of course. This would also be a time for us to mention / discuss Heritage Park and the Bowles House that was brought up today. Assuming they are supportive, there is some community engagement, public awareness we need to get out. And that would be the project-specific information that we're going to be developing and about the process and the facts and firm up our business case and our story with the public. There will be a do not pass date on the city council, meaning it could be in July, it could be in August. That date will be to be determined, where they will call for the November 2026 bond election. So really anything could change between now and that meeting. But at the end of the day, it will be up to council to put it on the ballot. But they will weigh your recommendations very seriously, I'm sure. And then November 2026 would be the bond election. Okay, so that's the timeline we're looking at ahead. Okay. Well, y'all, that ends it for tonight, but I wanted to extend my gratitude to you all. This has been one of the most engaging, professional, sincere committees I have been a part of, and I've been a part of city government for almost 20 years. So I appreciate everyone being so engaged. Every one of you have been engaged, and I appreciate that. You're actively here. My grandfather said, wherever you are, be there. And I believe that you all were here mentally. So thank you for all of your input. I think the city of Pflugerville directly benefits from your input. Things that you guys opposed on and supported, it's incredibly valuable. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for entertaining this and spending your very precious time. I mean, I have a child, so I get it. So I appreciate, the time of your families that they gave as well for you to be here.
I think y'all did a great job.
Yeah, I just wanted to say too that y'all did a fantastic job. I know in the beginning there was a lot of questions we asked and
Yeah.
didn't have the information. By now, the package y'all put together for us today really made a lot more sense. Even though I was a big no, I do appreciate your hard work. But like I said, for me, it was just the perspective that I think we're kind of going the wrong direction with some things. So, but I do appreciate all y'all's work and presentation.
Appreciate that.
Getting all this dense info into our brains is a Herculean task, so thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can just adjourn.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we are adjourned.
To adjourn.
No motion needed. It's the power of the chair.